Hey everybody, my name is Jake. Welcome to the show. This is Sunday Service. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, current live stream person who's disappointed in a decision that happened in a court case in Norway that we've been covering on the channel. And there's some other Jehovah's Witnessy news stuff, some clips, a cringy YouTube video where a pastor tries to talk to Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe Scientology, and RFK Jr., all that and more, all on today's. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. And today, definitely some bummery news that we're going to talk about. There's some links in the description that you can check out if you want to look at this stuff without my commentary. But yes, we have been talking on the channel for the last couple of years about some ongoing litigation that's been happening in Norway, where the group Jehovah's Witnesses was sued by the government and ultimately defunded, lost their status as a charity, as a religion that would get benefits and subsidies from the government. So they were not made to be illegal, but their shunning practices, the fact that they excommunicate people from the religion and have standards and practices and procedures around that as a mandated thing, not a personal choice, meant that the group was deemed to be in violation of the law. That's what led to some of the changes that we've seen out of the group in the last few months. They did adjust the wording slightly of their disfellowshipping policy. It is now called removal, not disfellowshipping, for reasons that are not entirely clear. I think just to obfuscate it and make it a little bit more complicated so that they can say to governments, we don't disfellowship people anymore, when the practice is more or less exactly the same as it was before. But they did try and soften their rhetoric and at least gesture towards making it appear to governments that they were more accommodating than they used to be, and so maybe that worked. Here's the honest truth, that I haven't really looked at this information yet. I've been really busy this weekend. I just happened to see that this happened, and so I'm just as interested as you to see what the reasoning is for all of this. If you've never been here before, this is a live stream. It's not an edited video like I make on the main feed, and in fact, a lot of times I go on tangents. That, I guess, is sort of like the normal stuff, but usually while folks are filtering in to the stream, I try to not do this, but it just happens that I end up complaining about YouTube and such.
Oh, happy day. All worldly complaining about YouTube.
Now, I'm just going to be real with you guys. I do have some things to complain about regarding YouTube, but full disclosure, I did something that I really try not to do in this channel. I took a drink of water during the wrong sound drop. I did use the complaint corner sound drop to take a drink of water, and I shouldn't have done that. What I should have done is play the drinking water sound drop.
My church had been giving me ass to drink, but now I was freely receiving, the water of life.
This is a good time to mention that this is not a particularly mature or intelligent live stream, but you know who is mature and intelligent is QC Man 2000, who gifted one all-worldly membership. Thanks so much. And if I may, speaking of the fact that this stream is crass, consider becoming a patron or a YouTube member, because boy oh boy is life tough. I mean, it's tough for everybody. I know we're all broke and struggling out here, but hey, maybe forego some important things in your life. Start cutting things out of your life. Could you simplify to make room for $5 a month on Patreon? No, I'm not a good salesperson. I don't really know what to tell you, but hey, it would be nice. Yes, so this is a totally independently run operation. I do have an occasional editor, but we're both just doing this for fun, basically. But I did say last week, if you didn't see the stream, I was able to sign with a literary agency, which is exciting because of a book I wrote, but now I'm still in the process of waiting for that to happen. So that could be a couple years before I get any money from it. So right now, I'm just a lot busier, but still making stuff. So I don't know. I haven't really demonstrated the value of this stream so far, though, I have to say. So maybe I should actually talk about YouTube. I keep on getting delayed in releasing all of my video projects, but I meant to get a video out last week that's a rebuttal of David Splain's especially culty talk on the March JW broadcasting. I ended up having a lot more to say about it than I thought I would, and it's become, I think it's a really good video. Like, I'm really happy with it. It's very silly, but also I think it's good. Still, you don't come here for the salesmanship. If I wanted to be a salesman, I guess I just would be. I just would have done that instead of whatever you would call this. Oh, Christina said I would stay with the witnesses. Well, that's a good question. That's a good question, and one thing that we will get to when we get to the Norway stuff. Put the big rocks in the jar first, doing all worldly Patreon subscription, then the sand follows. This is the kind of nerdy, extremely inside baseball reference that only the absolute nerds understand, and I thank you so much. This is a book that I don't even know if I'm allowed. The working title is Grim Noir. I don't know if that's going to be the final title, but it's a book for middle grade readers that I wrote around 2022 and it did a couple different drafts of and have been submitting to agents. And so now I'm technically officially signed with this agency, and we'll see. We'll see what's going on with that. That's what I don't know anything. I don't know anything about what's happening. I do know that I don't get paid money until a publisher buys the book. So right now it's just kind of like a nice thing that has created a lot of work, and it's exciting, but I don't really have anything to show for it in public yet. So we're still in the trust me bro phase of that, I guess. Sorry, we're truly doing some shooting the shit. I will say though, I've noticed this too, that it does seem to me like when fewer people knew how to write, had access to writing equipment, and fewer people were allowed to be published authors, that there was more opportunities for people like me to be published. I took that in a very different direction than Jenny was intending. No, I really have no idea, to be honest. I don't know how easy book publishing ever was. One thing that I learned is that some of the really great 19th century writers that I might have thought of as people who started from poverty and worked their way out of it, no, that wasn't the case for them at all. And a lot of great literary figures were already super well off. So I take solace in that because I'm like, so I'm better than them. I have more adversity to overcome. Yeah, I'll say it. I have more adversity in my life than Jane Austen ever did. I'll say it 1,000 times. No, I won't say that. There's no way that's true, and I have done zero research on that. I don't even totally know what I'm saying. I think I had an ADHD moment and forgot what I was supposed to be talking about. Okay, let's talk about Norway. Now I'm getting self-conscious about the fact that a lot of people are here, and I'm not talking about anything important. Okay, let's talk about Norway. Now I want to have a conversation with some people here. Now I know that I started this stream with pretentious rambling about things that nobody actually care about and that were not related to the subject at hand. But I saw yesterday that there was a Scientology stream that had over 700 live concurrent viewers. And I don't even know if there are technically 700 people in Scientology anymore. But this channel had 250,000 million subscribers. Guys, we got to step up the game. I don't know what we got to do. But these Scientologists, there's one Scientologist left in the world, probably, right? And it's Tom Cruise. And we all know who that guy is. I'm totally kidding. I don't mean to be disrespectful to Scientologists. But I'm competitive in life and in which religion is the most popular in the algorithm. And I want ours to be more popular than Scientology, since there are technically more Jehovah's Witnesses. And that means there's more ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. We have to start actively trying to sabotage the Scientologists in the way that Scientologists try and sabotage former members. I don't know if we need to start kind of our own Scientology to combat this, but I'm open to suggestions. Okay, so this is interesting. I don't think this is actually the thing that I meant to pull up. This is the one I wanted to look at first. So this is Avoid JW's write-up of Norway's court ruling, which I thought was good. And then we can also look at Jan Frode Nielsen's comments. He is one of the lead ex-Jehovah's Witness activists who has been really front and center in the media, kind of telling the ex-Jehovah's Witness side of the story to the masses. Jan Frode Nielsen. He wrote something for Reddit that we can look at. Okay, so Oslo, Norway. The recent ruling by the, Borgarting? Humphrey Borgarting Court of Appeal marks a disappointing setback for those seeking justice for vulnerable individuals within Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway. Despite previous legal victories that had revoked JW's registration as a religious community and halted state subsidies due to their harmful practices, this ruling overturned those decisions, reinstating both their legal status and financial support. Interesting. The core of the case focused on Jehovah's Witnesses' deeply concerning treatment of former members and baptized minors. Former members have testified a few times now, but recently in February of 2025, about the devastating consequences of leaving the community, including social exclusion and losing contact with family and friends. We read a lot of their testimony at the time. If people want to go back through the live stream playlist I have, it's got all the past live streams, some of which are like no longer publicly listed, but if you want to kind of get up to date on that stuff, you can do that. The Oslo District Court had previously ruled in favor of the state, recognizing that this organization's ostracism created such severe social pressure that it effectively robbed individuals of their right to withdraw from the organization freely. This was seen as a violation of Norwegian laws designed to protect freedom of religion and children's rights. However, the Court of Appeals has now taken a different stance. While acknowledging that Jehovah's Witnesses' practice creates severe social consequences for those who leave, including fractured families and social isolation, the court ultimately ruled that this did not meet the threshold of sufficient undue pressure to violate the free right of withdrawal. This ruling dismisses the reality that emotional and psychological manipulation can be just as coercive as physical force. I'm really pissed about this. This is what they're celebrating, that they just barely escaped being labeled as inflicting psychological violence on their children. I don't know if that's a quote from Jan Nielsen, not sure. But the reason why this is so absolutely disgusting is that, oh no, we lost a lot of people. What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Yeah, I think this is a well-stated version. So what Jehovah's Witnesses do when they go to court is they just straight up lie. I did a video that is called Every Lie Watchtower Tells About Shunning, and I think that video is like 2 years old, but it's all really still the same exact playbook every single time. What they do is they go to the governments, the courts, whatever this entity is, if it's a civil lawsuit, and they say, we do not tell anybody in this religion to shun their former family members. We don't do that. That is a personal decision that some Jehovah's Witnesses just so happen to make. But there is nothing in our teachings that tells anybody that they have to shun anybody. That's just a lie. That's only a lie. It's a complete opposite of what they teach. And Norway really, I don't think they could have possibly done a better job demonstrating this, and specifically demonstrating Watchtower's lies, the way in which Watchtower's actual policies that are in plain black and white, the videos that they create for all their members to watch, all of that stuff creates such a specific picture. And it's like the only way that you could possibly take Jehovah's Witnesses' side is if Well, there's two possibilities. One, you just don't understand all this nebulous cult language, and you genuinely believe the things that they're saying in court right now in front of your face, and you ignore all of the evidence of the things that they said before they were in court talking to you right now. Like, before their feet were being held to the fire, here's what they said in writing. Now, in the court, they're saying something else. Well, I think but this is the problem. This is the problem, I think. Okay, I shouldn't say this is the problem. It's a separate problem. This is a separate problem. The one problem is what I just said, which is that they believe the lies that Watchtower's lawyers tell them in court. The other thing that I sincerely think is that there are people who are themselves religious, and by people I mean like judges, people on the courts who are themselves religious and do not want to set a precedent that could end up making them look bad as a law person. I couldn't think of the right word. As a legal person, legalman, as a lawman, or they just kind of think that in their heart that a church should be able to do that because maybe they're also part of a similar church. I don't know. But basically, the problem that I have with this technicality no down boo over, I gave basically a comedy bang bang intro today, so I feel like I should give a little shout out to Scott Aukerman. It's only a technicality that they didn't think it met the threshold required by law. Yeah, this is the whole problem. Just because something is legal does not mean that something is moral. And one of the things that I found really impressive about what the activists and the Norwegian government were able to do when this issue of shunning like systemic abuse within Jehovah's Witnesses, when they found out all that stuff, they went to work changing the law so that they could hold abusive religions accountable. And it's kind of weird that after all that, and after the abuses of children, the psychological abuse of children does not technically meet the threshold, like it's not abusive enough. It kind of reminds me of the language in Jehovah's Witness publications that is aimed towards mostly women. Technically, it could be a man or a woman, but most often the male is the abusive partner, physically, violently abusive, right? Well, Watchtower says in some cases of extreme physical violence, it might be appropriate for a wife to separate from her husband. And there's all these caveats contained in there. And that puts you in the position of, well, yes, my husband is beating me, but is it extreme? Is my life really in imminent threat? Is this extreme violence? And that is what I feel the government is doing here, is they're saying, well, yes, this is coercive and it has deleterious effects on thousands of children in Norway, but like, is it abuse? What's the language that they're using? Sorry. Sufficient undue pressure. Well, if I won't talk to you anymore, I'm your dad. And if you tell me that you are not going to be a Jehovah's Witness and that you are going to go into Satan's world, then I'm going to enact Jehovah's discipline. I'm going to follow Jehovah's discipline. And that means that I'm going to kick you out of the house. I'm going to shun you. And for you, that means that you're going to be completely shunned by everybody in your community without any ability to defend yourself. They will not ever be able to hear your side of the story as far as the religion's concerned. They have to cut you off. Like, if that's not undue pressure, what the the court is saying here, this human rights court, is that this is not a violation of human rights. And if this isn't a violation of human rights, then what's the point of having human rights? I mean, this makes a person a slave to a religion. It makes you cannot leave of your own free will. Like, if you don't think that psychological manipulation on children has lifelong effects, then I don't think that you really know anything about psychology or children, or just have any common sense at all. So I don't really understand this. It feels to me like a trepidatious conservative ruling because they feel like they're maybe in some kind of uncharted waters and they want to kick it up to the Supreme Court, like a bunch of cowards. That's what I think. We'll let the grown-ups handle this. We're just the human rights lawyers. We think it's probably okay if human children are allowed to be systematically shunned after they were sexually abused by a cult that then covered up their abuse. We think that's fine, apparently. Sorry, I will now continue to read Mitsu Sato's article here. The court's handling of JW's treatment of minors is particularly troubling. The state had argued that JW's exclusion practice constitutes psychological violence and negative social control against children. While the Court of Appeal acknowledged the potential harm, they concluded that the abuse was not proven probable to meet the legal definition of psychological violence. In doing so, the court dismissed the ongoing emotional trauma children face long after being shunned from their families and social circles. The fact that this abuse was deemed not long enough to qualify as psychological violence reflects a profound misunderstanding of how control and coercion function in closed religious environments. Sorry, I'm catching up with chat. I just realized there was a couple. Incognito says, it's odd to me that a secular country like Norway is still paying religious orgs from the state. Well, I mean, I am an atheist, I am a secular humanist, but I firmly believe that religions have the right to exist. I think that anybody should really be able to do whatever the hell they want as long as it's not hurting anybody, within reason. And I think as long as we can do the most amount of good for the most amount of people possible, then I would feel totally comfortable with religions receiving some kind of, funding, as long as they are using it the way the government of Norway intends them to use it, which is to actually pay for services rendered, like to pay for things for the members of the church and to fund church activities and stuff, charity, to do good in the community. The state is kind of making an investment in the idea that there's going to be religions anyway. There's always going to be religious people. So we can incentivize the religions to be charitable and do the most amount of good by giving them some subsidy. That's what I think. I don't know anything about Norwegian government, but that's what I would assume is their reasoning. But I think that every country has religious crazies. I mean, we had a secular government up until about 5 minutes ago. The Supreme Court might not even accept the case if they think the lower court got it mostly right. That's true. They don't have to necessarily hear it. Well, if their Supreme Court works like our Supreme Court, it's true. They could just not take up the case. But I don't know if that's actually how their court works. What does the law say in Norway? Yeah, after this, let's try and find the actual ruling. I agree. It's not a technicality. It's not like the Alec Baldwin trial. There was a technicality in which he got off, but this was not a technicality. It's that these judges, justices, whatever you're supposed to call them, they are I think that this is an acceptable level of abuse to occur within a religion. I do think, and this is I think it's a genuine challenge that we face as a society that has absolutely no easy answers, as far as I know, which is, and it's something that we're certainly facing in America right now, free speech is really, really important. Freedom in general is really important. But when you allow bad faith actors unlimited freedom, they will use that freedom to harm other people. So how do you enable the most amount of freedom while mitigating harm? And it's especially difficult to demonstrate abuse within religions, high control groups. Multi-level marketing schemes have the benefit of, like, you can prove the financial damage, but like, it's tactically not a pyramid scheme, so they can get away with it. Cults, a lot of times, it is kind of an invisible thing where it is a mental process. Trauma is something that is not always obviously seen. And the culture of the religion is something that is way harder to prove to a court than what their actual policies are. I've been saying for a while, or speculating, that they might not release like an updated version of the Elders Manual. If you've never viewed the channel before, the elders, congregation elders of Jehovah's Witnesses in the local church, elders have a book, a rule book, that lower level members don't have access to. The elders report to the branch. The branch has a manual that the elders don't have access to. And, the governing body people have something that the branch people don't have access to. There's more information the more you move up the ladder. And so those things, you can kind of prove the policies that are written down. And if those things keep coming up in court, which they do, including those branch guidelines and things that have leaked, years and years ago, then what they're probably going to do is what most criminals do, which is they stop writing things down. Don't take notes on a criminal conspiracy. So I could totally see them just communicating their rules and wishes to elders through other means by just having them call the branch for every little thing. I'm not really sure. It seems the terminology in law was not presented well enough in a quantifiable way for the judges that don't have a psychological understanding. Yeah. Do the U.S. churches have suicide cause shunning like JW's? Oh, yeah. I mean, that happens all the time. Other churches do not shun like Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, that's the kind of freedom thing that's a little challenging, because one of the lies that Jehovah's Witnesses will tell in court, one of their common things in their playbook, is they say, well, everybody should have a right to decide who they communicate with in their life. People cut toxic people out of their lives all the time. And, like, that's true. It is, in some cases, necessary to cut off contact with a person. If someone is, like, stalking you, or they're abusive to you, they're tormenting you in some way, it would be crazy to think, like, well, just be nice to them. Like, no, it's fine to cut that kind of person off in your life. There are some, we all know that there are valid reasons to shun someone or to shun a certain practice from society, like pulling your pants down and having diarrhea in the middle of a funeral. I would say that's a practice that is shunned in our society. You could probably try it, but you are maybe not going to be welcome to the next funeral. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have cultural rules. We shun certain behaviors. And we engender certain behaviors by encouraging or rewarding certain things. And I think that is something that a lot of courts and secular bodies cannot see when they're examining Jehovah's Witnesses or any cult, which is, what is the kind of invisible mentality that is causing people to do certain things that the religion doesn't even have to tell them to do. The religion really doesn't have anything in writing that says you have to kick your kid out of the house, your ex-JW teenager, if they turn 18 and they're an apostate. There's nothing in writing that says that, but it sure seems like there is, because it happens all the time. There's just thousands of stories of that happening. Those are the kind of things that are hard to demonstrate. So, these are Jan Nielsen's comments on the judgment's reasoning. You can find a link to it on the right. We can find a link to it. That's what I want. English translation of the judgment. Oh, it opened in a PDF. Okay. Let's look at his commentary first. The Court of Appeal assumes that the allegation/information the state has regarding Jehovah's Witness practicing of exclusion are correct. The testimonies and evidence confirm this. We have believed in all our information about the facts of the case, despite Jehovah's Witnesses' attempt to discredit it. Good. Okay. Page 20, regarding the right to free withdrawal. By free withdrawal, they mean, can you freely withdraw from the religion? Do you have a right to resign from the religion without consequence? And the clear answer to this is no. So, okay. The court states, it is not doubtful nor disputed that a withdrawal could have dire consequences for the person who withdraws regarding the possibility of contact with those who are still Jehovah's Witnesses. This also applies to close family members. This could be very difficult for many. No. That would be difficult for anyone. Nobody's like, I was shunned and it was totally no big deal. Like, that's not, there's a reason why solitary confinement is considered one of the most effective forms of torture, and there are rules regulating it, because isolation is deadly. This could be very difficult for many, both those who have withdrawn and those who remain Jehovah's Witnesses. This is confirmed by the witnesses in the case who had withdrawn or been excluded, and the professional literature present. Another quote. The question is whether the social consequences as a result of losing, or at least having greatly reduced contact with members of Jehovah's Witnesses, including family members, if one withdraws, conflict with the right to free withdrawal. This is where the court differs from all the others that have considered the case by writing. That was Jan's comment there. And yeah, to me, the plain reading of the text, which I know it's an English translation, but it seems to me like if the question is really, are there social consequences? I think the question is, do the social consequences that Jehovah's Witnesses have imposed conflict with the right to free withdrawal? And so this, I guess, is where the disagreement comes in. Whatever their definition of freedom to withdraw means, they feel that the state has not demonstrated that. Okay, so I think this is another quote that Jan is making of the document. Let's see. As stated above, it is practically effortless to withdraw from Jehovah's Witnesses. What? It is sufficient to send a letter to the congregation about the withdrawal. There is no evidence that a withdrawal is not respected, or that the congregation mainly tries to persuade members to rejoin. Therefore, the possible obstacles to withdrawal are related here to the consequences of withdrawal, which are reduced social contact with remaining members, including family members. Such reduced contact with former members of Jehovah's Witnesses, and especially close family friends, such as parents and children with whom no longer lives, but also, for example, grandparents and children, will be tough and burdensome for most people. Not these, iron-willed people of the court in Norway. These people, most people, not them, they're not persuaded by this. Based on the evidence, so this is Jan speaking now, based on the evidence, the Court of Appeals assumes that such consequences of withdrawal for some are so harmful that some members choose not to withdraw for that reason. The Court of Appeals nevertheless believes that these consequences do not constitute sufficient undue pressure to constitute a violation of the member's right to free withdrawal under Article 9 of the ECHR, European Court of Human Rights, I believe. The court has therefore accepted the facts that withdrawal entails extreme consequences implemented by those who receive state aid, assuming that this means that people end up being members against their will, but still believes that this is not sufficient undue pressure. This is where the law and the Court of Appeal completely falls away from the psychological, emotional, and human. If the systematic use of family ties as a weapon to prevent people from withdrawing, which the court acknowledges that it is not sufficient undue pressure, then what is? Where can this paragraph be used? So when it comes to the process against children, I repeat, children, the Court of Appeal writes this on page 27. Although the process can be very unpleasant, and in part also humiliating, the Court of Appeal nevertheless believes, under doubt, that the process as such cannot be considered psychological violence. The process will normally last for a relatively short period of time until a possible exclusion. What the fuck are they talking? This is just wrong. Like, what are they talking about? I am not shunned for a relatively short period of time. As long as my parents are alive, as long as I never go back to Jehovah's Witnesses, I will be shunned. So this is just a complete misunderstanding of the facts. So fuck whatever idiot wrote this. The process cannot therefore be said to constitute a pattern of offensive... wait, should this be a pretentious voice? Because now I'm getting mad. Absolutely bananas. I mean, this is literally... You know what this is? Is like Mitch McConnell's speech after January 6th. Like, literally after they acquit Donald Trump. Mitch McConnell goes up there and he's like, nah, I completely agree that President Trump did all of this stuff. He's completely, uniquely irresponsible. But also he's acquitted. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. Goodbye. Like, they're like, we agree that they're doing all these horrible things, but is it like, should we really get him in trouble for that? Annoying. Although the process can be very unpleasant and in part also humiliating. Oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. The process cannot therefore be said to constitute a pattern of offensive acts or behavior that is repeated or persists over time. That is something that would normally be the case for something to be considered psychological violence, i.e., cf. the committee's understanding in reproduced above. The fact that the process is short-lived means that, in the Court of Appeal's view, it does not have the character of psychological abuse. Awful. I hate this person. You know who wrote this? What's the guy? I gotta find this person. His name is... I found a picture of this guy. And I want to show you who I'm imagining wrote this. Why can't I find... Oh, it's this. Oh god, it's so tiny. Why is it the tiniest picture of him ever? Jedediah something. Jebediah Atkinson from SNL. This guy, he just writes really, really pretentious movie reviews with like a feathered quill pen. So that's kind of the energy I'm getting from this. It's just really baffling. It, like, their reasoning isn't. It doesn't seem like a reason to me. It doesn't seem like they're using their reasoning ability at all. If I do this, is it a little better? Kind of. So here's Jan. So what can one say? First of all, the abuse is not long enough for the Court of Appeal. That in itself is, well, but the most egregious thing is that the court ignores the fact that this is not something that lasts beyond the moment the expulsion is carried out. The child must continue to live with the consequences. This is not short-lived. It is for the rest of his life. Yeah, like, this is just wrong. I think that should be illegal. If your judgment contains a factual error of the actual case, and you have based your reasoning on a factual error, you should be fired and probably put in one of those dunk tanks at a county fair, and your law license should be stripped away, and people should paint a target on the top of your bald head so birds can poop on it. In my opinion. You know, it's a good thing I'm not a lawmaker. Some people say that I kind of sound like a fascist when I talk like that. If the process ends with the minor... Okay, so on page 28, the court says, if the process ends with the minor baptized member being expelled, there is no doubt that it will generally be very difficult and challenging for everyone involved that the social contract with other baptized members of Jehovah's Witnesses is broken off or significantly reduced. For family members who are Jehovah's Witnesses and with whom one does not live, the contact will be reduced to contact in necessary family matters. This must be assumed to be incredibly demanding for children who will then, for example, have significantly reduced contact with the grandparents, aunts, and uncles who are Jehovah's Witnesses, as well as with siblings who are Jehovah's Witnesses and who have moved away from home. No, not and who have moved away from home. Just any sibling. Furthermore, the child will lose contact with other members of the congregation. So they're acknowledging all this shit. For children of Jehovah's Witnesses, it must be assumed that much of the social circle will be other children and young people in the congregation, which makes it extra challenging to lose contact with them. The Court of Appeal, however, still believes, here also with doubts, that the social distancing that a minor child may experience through exclusion cannot be considered psychological violence. Here's what Jan says. So look at what they write. JW's practice is under doubt not within the definition of psychological violence against children. This is what they are celebrating. The Court of Appeals ended up using its doubt whether it can be considered as mental violence against children as a reason to grant JW's case. They repeat this on page 29. According to this, the Court of Appeals believes that even though both the exclusion process and the social distancing in the event of the exclusion would be very difficult for most children, as mentioned, with doubts, it has not been proven probable that the practice constitutes psychological violence against children. Really something to celebrate? Jehovah's Witnesses says in its response that we can now celebrate this as a great victory for the freedom of Norwegians. Really? That one just escapes the definition, with doubts, of psychological violence against their children. Would you celebrate if someone said that about you and your child? Yeah. Just fuck this. Like, it's just wrong. It's just a misunderstanding. What is really bananas is that last part where they accurately describe all of the problems in the group, and it's like, is it violence? This is why I don't even understand what the utility is in psychological violence versus this is an undue pressure upon children. It is a violation of their freedom because they should be able to change religions with zero consequences. Like, I think what the court's decision seems to leave out is the fact that these are mandated processes. It is not that it just so happens that it's challenging to leave Jehovah's Witnesses because they're really religious, and so it's like you're not going to be able to talk as much anymore. Like, no, it's not that. It's that the rules are you have to shun the person. If you ever leave, your entire family and all your friends will treat you like you're dead. So you better not leave, children. Because if you do, you'll be shunned. And then Armageddon's going to come and you'll die. Like, that's just... If that's not psychological violence, then okay, whatever you do want to call that, your government is giving money to this group for free now. So way to fucking go, Court of Norway. Like, what do you want? What do you want? What, like, does there have to be something in writing that says members have to be physically restrained? And if someone is physically restrained, well, okay. Like, they're like, well, it's not like it's hard to resign because you just have to send in a letter. It's like, okay, it's not actually that hard to jump in front of traffic if you want to kill yourself, but it's still a problem. It doesn't mean you should do it. I don't know. Arrgh. That's about all I can handle about that. Now, I guess the silver lining is a couple things. Since we just read a long article, I won't read this, but there's an interview here with Raquel and Jan, some positives in the Norway ruling. That's a dialogue with them, interviewing them. This page is loading really weird right now, but that's okay, because I wasn't going to read that. What I view as the benefit of this, all things considered, is that really Jan's point about how the victory that they're celebrating is actually really disgusting. And I think it's not necessarily an easy sell for Jehovah's Witnesses. Anthony Morris saying that shit about the government, like Satan is going to try and stop us from doing this, and Satan's going to turn the governments against us in the last days, and they're going to try and make us change our Bible-based conscience and our practice of disfellowshipping, but we are certainly never going to do that. We're not going to do it. And then they did. I mean, does it really have no bearing upon the court that the church in question believes that you, the court, are all deserving of death and will die imminently because you are not Jehovah's Witnesses? And that's like all children within the religion are growing up with that framework. They're growing up with that framework, first of all, for your government. So this is what you're giving money to. I understand free speech. You're going to, whatever, you got to support people who disagree with you. But it's also like, these are violations of rights of children. And we're not talking about making Jehovah's Witnesses illegal. We're not talking about arresting people or shutting down their kingdom halls or anything like that. We are saying free money from the government, which is just like funneled through a pneumatic tube straight to headquarters. And Norway doesn't even see any of it. So it's really disappointing. It's really frustrating. Sorry, I meant to say the positive thing, which is that disfellowshipping is not popular among Jehovah's Witnesses. They are all very self-conscious about it and wish they didn't have to do it. Like, ask any Jehovah's Witness about disfellowshipping, and they will fumble through their explanation and probably lie about it, like Jehovah's Witnesses do in court, because witnesses lie to themselves about it. They don't want to think about it. That's how I was as a witness. A lot of the things that the group's been changing lately, like beards and having to wear a dress at the Kingdom Hall, and you can't even wear a pantsuit or slacks, and this, that you can't even say hi to the disfellowship person at the meeting. Really, those are just kind of small cosmetic changes about things that make it personally embarrassing to be a Jehovah's Witness. It really doesn't have anything to do with the Bible, because as they demonstrate by virtue of changing it, none of it had any basis in the Bible to begin with. So I think that this is kind of a hard one to sell for Jehovah's Witnesses, because it's a little cringy to say, good news, everybody, we successfully defended our right to shun you if you ever leave the group. So maybe they'll try and spin this. I don't think that they actually have. We can look on the jw.org website and see if they've posted a news article. Probably not. Let's click news. Wow. Slow news month. They haven't really posted any news since February. Well, okay, they posted 3 stories since February, I guess. And it's just kind of the persecution porn thing. And like, by the way, to fucking courts in Norway, like, this is also what they do. What they do with your religion, and the fact that you're trying to just hold them to account at all, is they say that they're being persecuted, and this is one of many reasons why Jehovah is eagerly looking forward to blowing up, just exploding your church building with an Armageddon fireball. He can't wait. He can't wait to do that. So way to go for enabling this. Yeah, okay. They have not posted anything about this. And it'll be interesting to see if they do. The other thing is that it was very bad for them in the press in Norway and in Europe abroad. It got them on the radar in Canada potentially. And it really did make Watchtower worry. I mean, it really hasn't been... It's been a long time since they have scrambled to change something because of something legally damning. Well, think back to something that happened a year and a half ago or so. I see Danny in the chat, XJW Caleb. He and I covered it might have been on his channel, but there was a video that was supposed to be a part of the convention, I think last year in 2023, and they removed it last minute from the convention program. You know, one of these highly produced videos that they put a lot of time and money and manpower into, and they just overnight are like, this is deleted from the program. Hey, if you're the guy giving this talk at the convention, you're not showing your video anymore. Cut that out of the talk. And, you know, sending emails overnight. And the reason why it happened was because this Norway thing was happening, and this documentary had just aired in the UK, the Rebecca Vardy documentary, which was once again emphasizing how culty the shunning practice is. So when their feet are really held to the fire, they will make changes, and they will really scramble to make changes. They care about their wallets. That is it. Like, it's the thing that all these guys, it's like the only way you can possibly affect these cult leader type people is with their wallets or with their reputation. Now, like, the reputation of the group is not good, I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say that Jehovah's Witnesses have a sterling reputation worldwide. You're told that as a Jehovah's Witness because you're not really allowed to hear the outside world's opinion that much, except someone tells you to your face exactly what they personally think, in the door-to-door field ministry. But you're always told, like, everybody knows that Jehovah's Witnesses are the best tippers and the hardest workers and the nicest people to work with and the best cleaners and stuff. And, I think Jehovah's Witnesses are hard workers for sure. But no, most people as a religion, the perception of the group is that it's really stuffy and severe, that it's very conservative, and that you're really not allowed to have any fun, because the only things that anybody knows about Jehovah's Witnesses are the blood transfusion thing and the holidays thing. Like, it's just all about stuff you can't do. Crazy stuff you can't do. And increasingly, they are known as a group that shuns people and has a lot of child sexual abuse cases that they're covering up, just like the Catholic Church and a million other religions. I've been blabbing for a minute here. I think I'm going to have to take a big sip of water.
My church had been giving me ass to drink, but now I was freely receiving, the water of life.
That was good. That was a full sip, let me tell you. I drank Life's Water free. Streamed it in your channel. The stream is called The Leaked Videos Watched Out as One Mercy. I made the thumbnail. That's why I remember that so vividly. Danny says, but this isn't over. If anything, the fact that this is going to the Supreme Court in Norway will just get far more coverage in the news than any of this has so far. Yeah, we were saying earlier, and Danny let me know if you know anything about this one way or the other, but we were kind of wondering, is there a chance that the Supreme Court doesn't take this case? In my opinion, no. Like, having now read these, some of the snippets from this decision, it really does feel like there are just some obvious contradictions in the plain text of the decision. I don't think it's a hard sell that there's a huge discrepancy between what the lower courts decided and what this higher court decided. So we live in hell, so I don't want to say that it's a slam dunk. I mean, it's definitely not. Like, I have no idea what the Supreme Court would do. But, I mean, honestly, that would be really, really interesting. It would be a genuinely fascinating Supreme Court case. And I think, Jan believes there's no chance the Supreme Court won't take it, and I believe that too. This is made for the Supreme Court, and the judges agreed with the XJWs until these last ones. I agree. And the other thing about Jehovah's Witnesses that's kind of interesting, I need to, refresh my memory on this stuff, but I was intending to do more videos about a lot of things, including some court cases, and oh shit, what the fuck was I saying? Urgh. My brain died. Awful. A live streaming no-no just occurred. Hardcore. And, now we know why the Scientology channel can have 700 to 800 concurrent viewers, even though we're 8 times the size of Scientology. Brutal. Maybe self-loathing will bring me back to reality. Okay. Well, I think I know what I was going to say. The witnesses work with the same think tanks that Christian nationalists do. Whatever this kind of, there are conservative law groups where lawyers can essentially sign up to be a part of this for pro bono work, and it's just for their portfolio. And it's hard to figure out who these lawyers are, but Watchtower uses them all the time. And they were behind, like, the same group that Watchtower has used historically in the past is also behind the Dobbs case that ended up overruling Roe v. Wade. Like, it's the group that you've probably heard about if you listen to nerdy legal Supreme Court podcasts like I do, like Strict Scrutiny, but apparently you don't actually retain any of it because I have also not done that. Have you checked out the Religious Freedom Foundation Agency? Yes, I have. Nor I will not give money away easily. Well, this is why, I'm not trying to overhype this. I'm saying, in my mind, because I make everything about me, Jehovah's Witnesses, or democracy on this channel. Those are mostly the three things that I talk about. And this really is an interesting intersection of all those three things. Witnesses are a very American religion. And right now, the United States has positioned themselves as an enemy to Europe. I mean, that's like explicitly, it's not my opinion. That's like what Europe is saying. That's how they're receiving it. That's how Canada is receiving it. It's how the Netherlands and Greenland, whatever other kind of places Trump wants to take. Like, Trump has completely toppled over the entire world order, right? The alliances and stuff. And that's kind of interesting because right-wing nationalist movements, like what happened in the United States, are actually happening all over the world. Like the far right party in Germany gained, France, obviously. It's just happening everywhere. And now there is kind of this interesting backlash happening in Europe now that they're seeing what's happening to the United States and how quickly our economy's tanking and how easily like the norms of our Constitution are being dismantled. And if I was like a principled, secular, liberal academic type who worked in government, in the courts, I would really think that this case is kind of an opportunity to reject really crazy evangelical nationalistic shit. Like, if you want to really separate yourself from the United States, and you got to think that Europe is going to become, and it already is, it's going to become a bastion for academics and science. Like, I'm not a doctor or anything smart, but I work in a hospital with like surgeons and a lot of residents because we work at a teaching hospital. Let me tell you something. We are going to have a real problem in this country when it comes to having doctors and scientists in any field. People, they are going to go towards places that are not, anti-intellectual. They're not going to come to the place that is threatening to defund schooling that teaches the things they need to know to learn their profession. So I can see a scenario where like Norway really embraces this secular thing, and like that's the cultural vibe of the world as I see it. And every case that happens, to quote, a failed presidential candidate exists in the context of everything that came before it, right? Like, the European Court of Human Rights has historically been very deferential to this American religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, but I wonder if this very American religion will be quite so kindly received by Europe. Does that make any sense, or am I just like totally spewing some bullshit right now? I really don't know. So sound off in chat. Okay, let's look at some fun stuff for a change. Actually, I think I may have to play a newer sound drop that we sometimes have to do on this channel, just given the nature of society. And because it's a newer sound drop, I don't always know exactly where it is. But we did, not particularly subtly, take a little dip over into the politics corner.
It's difficult not to take sides in politics. It's very difficult because we are aware of the issues.
That's what we are on this channel. We are aware of the issues, and it's hard. I think that lady is spot on. That's why I play that clip. We're going to look at fun stuff. Well, this will probably just make me angry in a different way, but I had this in my watch later playlist for a while. It came across my feed organically. I did not seek this out, but as evidenced by the theme of this stream, which is me peeping views on other people's channels, 70,000 views in a month from Apologia Studios. And that tells me right off the bat, this is probably some Christian nonsense. Well, I guess the title probably could have told me that. Jehovah's Witness flees from pastor. We watched a pastor a while back on this channel who attempted to do a rebuttal of Jehovah's Witnesses, but it was odd because he's also a biblical literalist, so there's only so much departing he can do. So I'm kind of interested to see what this does. Hey, Javen Birdwell, thank you so much for becoming a new YouTube member. We are aware of the issues. We know what's going on. I don't know why. They really do non-English speakers dirty by having them talk like robots. It's great. Even more than the Jehovah's Witness speakers, they really make the dubs for foreign language speakers sound like an AI voiceover. So I really don't know what this is, but I think it's at a cart, judging by the thumbnail. So this is some street epistemology.
Jehovah's Witnesses? You are. No one really. Is this a good spot for you guys to hang out? People actually stop to talk to you here? You seem like you're in such a hurry.
We are.
So are you? Do you ever get in good conversations here? Because everyone's in such a hurry right here.
Yeah.
I honestly did feel like his energy was a little confrontational right off the bat. Oh, hey, shit. Happy coming out party on accident. It's Javen. I'm so sorry. The good news is, this isn't a Scientology channel, so nobody really watches. So nobody's really going to say, I'm really sorry. I really am in a good mood and not feeling salty. But now that I said that out loud, it really sounds like I am. There's no way I can turn this around. The bit it really just feels like it's become real, and I really just have an unrequited beef with ex-Scientology YouTubers. Hardcore Christians trying to debate witnesses is always so irritating to watch for me. Just two people arguing about nothing. Yeah, it's really weird. It's because, what we've been saying on this stream the entire time is these are fundamental abuses of human rights. This is unethical. This is immoral. And what the biblical literalist is saying is that verse doesn't mean that. That guy who didn't exist didn't become God. He became God's king under king who was appointed in 1914. It's just arguing about fan fiction. Do we have a special commenter?
Oh, I was just going to say, you're so salty. You're Salt Bay.
I'm a Salt Bay?
Yeah, the Salt Bay.
I am salty at Bay right now for saying that mean joke. See, this guy really came in with hey, what's going on? Did people really talk to you here? And they're like, what? And by the way, I think to answer his question, no, not a lot of people come up to the carts in any circumstances, in my experience.
I come out here a lot, and I always wonder, I'm like, does anyone ever stop to talk to you?
Yeah. Well, because it's international, so you get a lot of all over the world.
Right.
We're in every airport.
I've seen that. I travel a lot. I've seen you. So why are you guys Jehovah's Witnesses?
Because we know we're not Jehovah, and we give us
Weird. Are there it's really hard to hear on my end. What I heard her say was, we care about Jehovah. So we'll see.
I've seen that. I travel a lot. I've seen you. So why are you guys Jehovah's Witnesses?
Because we know we're not Jehovah, and we give us
When did you guys become Jehovah's Witnesses?
Wow, this is so worthless. Okay, listen. Now I actually am salty. Now I am salty. God damn it.
Welcome into. Oh, happy day. All worldly complaining about YouTube.
And you know what? No, I didn't accidentally hit the conspiracy corner one first because the thumbnails look identical. I'm going to complain about YouTube because I think there is a conspiracy. This is an inaudible video. This is a debate where only one of the debaters can be heard, and it has 70,000 views. My poor little channel. Where's my sad music? Do I have sad music? There's a thing I'm looking at called media assets. This one's called acoustic cinematic. There are people out there really putting in a lot of work. More work than they can really justify. Putting in 50 hours of effort into a video that will only be seen by 7,000 people. And you can hear it clearly, perfectly the entire way through. Yeah, maybe sometimes in the early days it's a little out of sync, or really out of sync with the way the guy's lips are moving. And yeah, maybe sometimes he forgets to put in clips he's supposed to, so the video doesn't make as much sense as he intended. But you can hear the whole damn video, and this video that has 70,000 views on a channel with over 500,000 subscribers is dog shit that was filmed with an iPhone from 1,000 feet away, zoomed in, and you can't hear shit. And that's just something to think about. The kind of world we live in, where artists who give monologues over acoustic guitar music are forced to struggle, while apologetic YouTubers, plagiarists, and sluts are dominating the algorithm. I don't know. I don't really know of any sluts dominating the algorithm. None of them can outslut me, bestie. Okay, sorry about that. I'm trying to do bits. I don't really know if any of them are working.
Born and raised?
Born and raised.
No. Okay. Husband, wife? Yeah, okay. Right on. From Arizona?
I was born here.
Okay, right on. So, why do you think that the organization of the Watchtower is true?
Well, we believe the Bible. Yeah, right.
Okay.
The Bible is true.
Okay.
So we believe the Bible, and the Bible is true. And then I didn't hear what he said after that, because this viral video is completely inaudible. Yeah, I'm running out of ideas. Well, it's really not that. I had an idea, and then the question is, in execution, was that idea very good? Hard to say. Well, here's the thing. Like, I put this in my watch later list, and I have a lot of my algorithm routinely recommends to me churches, like just local churches in like Little Rock or fucking Arkansas or something. Like they give me these little places in Columbus and Cleveland and Cincinnati. And they're just like random church YouTube feeds that like who don't have JW Stream, just some random local church that they can give out to their 12 members. And so I will get these YouTube recommendations that are like a random church in Missouri that is shot on like a tripod that is 25 years old, but it's showing it to me, and that I get. And I don't ever watch them, but I do linger on them because I'm always fascinated. And then YouTube's like, this guy, he knows he wants to watch them. And it's true. I do. I just, it never wins out in the grand scheme of time. Okay, to critique this guy real quick, I think that he came in a little too obviously filming a YouTube video and looking to get a reaction. Like, I think that you want to be a little bit more chill. We can't always and don't always compliment Lloyd Evans on this channel, but he did a video that came out around the time when I was waking up and watching a lot of his content, and I was nervous to watch it because it was something like this. He went up to a Jehovah's Witness literature cart that was like in Disneyland, kind of like near the check-in gate and stuff, and he went over and talked. I actually thought that his video was really good because he was totally just conversational and really tried to connect to them as people first. And I think the issue with this is that it clearly is trying to be a short, under 10-minute video that can go viral on YouTube. And it's not something that like Anthony Magnabosco would do, where you might be talking to some random religious person for 90 minutes and you don't even get anywhere. So I get that's probably what they're going for.
Convinces you though about the Watchtower's particular version of Christ and the gospel? What has you so committed to it? What's convincing to you?
The truth.
Okay.
Oof. Okay. This is pretty bad on the witness's part. That's a really bad answer. So the guy said, what makes you convince that the Bible, or no, what makes you convinced that the Watchtower is the truth? And they're like, well, we believe in the Bible. And he's like, oh, okay, so what convinces you that the Bible's true? And you're like, it's the truth.
Okay. So what convinces you though about the is true?
Well, we believe the Bible. Yeah, right. The Bible is true.
Okay. So what convinces you though about the Watchtower's particular version of Christ and the gospel? What has you so committed to it?
I think that question would definitely make a Jehovah's Witness confused. Watchtower's version of the gospel, like, witnesses really have, and I don't mean this in like a rude way, because this would have been true of me as a witness, but like, you really don't think of your religion as having teachings or doctrines or a take on something. Like, you don't even really use the word doctrines in the organization. It's really like you have the truth. So you think that doctrines are things that other people have. And so I think as soon as you say, like, what makes you think that Watchtower's version of the Bible is true, that, like, it's a good question to ask, actually, because they probably have never thought about the fact that they do have a version. So it's kind of a good question and kind of not, because it clearly just dumped them. Falling Tower, one of the greats, says, coming in late, but I hate these cart crash style vids. Both sides end up sounding ridiculous, and I've even discovered friends of mine posted, and I'm sure they have no idea. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't like the idea of posting it with the person not knowing either. I know it's a little rich coming from me, given the judicial committee of it all, but I think, in that case, I don't show anybody's face, and I bleep out their names mostly except for when I forgot. And I think that's what I would do. Like, I've been tempted to go up to carts before and talk and record it. It's just like the last time I saw one, we were downtown together, me and Christina, like on a date. And, I'm not going to ruin date night by being like, "Ooh, this is good content, honey." And it was like cold. The timing hasn't been right, but I think you have to be a little chill with it. I'll tell you what, though, for me, the thing that makes me uncomfortable is, on some level, I would have to lie a little bit, right? Like, I would have to at least not tell them that I was an apostate. I'm thinking from the point of view is I want to have a productive conversation that leaves them with something to think about. The wording I would have used as a Jehovah's Witness, right? I want to do some unwitnessing. I generally think that unwitnessing is not like, I'm an apostate, what you think about that? Boom! Because, obviously they're going to be freaked out.
What's convincing to you?
The truth.
Okay.
It's the truth.
It's the truth?
Right.
Okay, all right.
That's it.
But
That's it, dude.
I'm a Christian, and I love
We can tell.
Jehovah's Witnesses. You guys are extraordinarily passionate, and one thing I respect about you guys is just the tenacity of your organization and the fact that you guys spend all your time out and knocking on doors and on the streets. It shows that you have a true commitment, so I respect that very much.
This is probably the thing that I would hear the most from Christians whose door I knocked on, is they would say, I have a lot of respect for you because you actually go out there and preach and you're so dedicated. And I think they really mean it on some level. Because I think a part of him was like, man, I don't believe my shit enough to be doing that. And I also think it's a little bit backhanded because I don't know. But that's a good thing to say to a witness. I do respect people who do this. Let me run a take by it that I have been trying to like formulate in my head. This is a pretentious area, but I think the reasons why cults and I guess conspiracy theories on some level too are successful is because they make this like simulacrum of actual movements for change. Like they kind of co-opt the idea of social justice movements. They adopt a lot of the aesthetic of working together for a common cause. Most cults think on some level they're saving the world and unifying people, and the rules usually start out as a way to unify and make sure people are on the same page, you know, but instead of advocating for something that's actually going to make the world a better place, like people's enfranchisement or rights or equality, dignity, whatever, you're just advocating for perpetuating this group that's slowly accumulating more people, like the Katamari Damacy ball. I think that's that's what cults do. And I do think that is kind of the appeal of doing the preaching when you are a Jehovah's Witness, is you feel like, yes, I'm fighting for the cause. Like, I know as somebody who does want to get more involved in doing something related to politics, I have a real trigger response to the idea of doing door knocking. I just simply cannot do it. I can't. That's like, I'll get a Tony Soprano panic attack. So I don't know. That was truly just a random take. That had nothing to do with this video. I just wanted to see what you thought of that. Do cults co-opt the aesthetic of progressive or radical civil rights movements for cynical gain? I guess that's what I'm kind of trying to say.
Imitate Christ. It's just what his whole focus was in spreading the good news of
Going out, and that's right.
And the kingdom is a solution for mankind's problems. And it's evident that we're in the last days, so, you know, what better thing could we be doing with our time?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. She gave literally a perfect Jehovah's Witness response. He complimented the door-to-door preaching work. I have a very vivid memory of a girl who I had gone to high school with, and I think she was a cheerleader even. She was really, really cute. And then we were at Columbus State together, you know, the local community college, and we had a class together. And it was some prerequisite I had to take, and it was about religion. And I was a Jehovah's Witness, and I was really uncomfortable because the teacher was clearly an atheist, and he was like really showing all of the flaws in the Genesis account. Now I was in brainwash mode, and so I was like, you know, raise my hand and saying JW theology stuff. And this cute girl was in my class, and I didn't realize it till after the fact. And I was a little embarrassed. But she came up to me afterward, and she was like, I thought that was really cool. I'm religious too. I'm not going to dox her, but it turns out she was in another cult, which hopefully I'll talk about on the channel this year at some point. That's kind of a local group. So that explains why she was more comfortable with my religious zealotry at the time. But she said, I really appreciate that you guys go out there and preach. And I said, well, it's because we imitate Jesus. He said to go out there and preach. And he told us to preach about the kingdom during the last days. And it's the last days. So what better time to be like the exact same thing? You know, so that was just a little window, a little peek, a little crack into my crack.
And wasted on other things, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate that very much.
Wasted on other things,
And
like
I believe
surreptitious
I believe
YouTube video
sure.
recordings.
I mean, you wouldn't be standing here. You said you believe we're in the last days. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you study God's word, you know what the last days, the signs of the last days, right?
Okay.
What are they?
Whoa, so she really turned that right back around on him. She did a ninja move, kind of a pro move that you can learn as a Jehovah's Witness, where you make them answer a question. And he asked, well, how do you know it's the last days? And she says, well, you're a Christian. You've read the Bible. What does the Bible say about the last days? So I'm kind of rooting for this lady. I also like her classes a lot and might try and ask her where she got them.
What would
I
you
might
be
wanna-
referring to?
What is the sign of the last days that Jesus gave?
In Matthew 24, in the Olivet Discourse?
Not only that, but in Timothy and all the Gospels, actually.
Yeah.
Talking tacos?
Luke 21.
Yeah, Luke 21, Matthew 24, Mark 13. Very good. Yeah, the Olivet Discourse. So you think the Olivet Discourse has something to do with today? Is that what you believe?
The Olivet Discourse? Is that what he is saying?
The Olivet Discourse has something to do with today?
That's what we've seen, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, turn the TV.
The Olivet Discourse? Is that what he's actually saying? I've not heard this before. Discourse. I mean, it's auto-populating. Oh, okay. So I was spelling it phonetically, and in my defense, what the subtitles of the video said, but it is not the all of it discourse, it's the Olivet? Just a word? The Olivet Discourse. Let's go to gotquestions.org. Seems like a reputable internet service. Looks great. The Olivet Discourse is the name given to the orderly and extended teaching given by Jesus Christ on the Mount of Olives. His subject is the end times. The discourse is recorded in the parallel passages and why is it called that? Why is nobody explaining this to me? Oh, is it because it's the Mount of Olives? Like you call them the Pauline Gospels because Paul wrote them? Can we call this the Jacobian YouTube channel? The Jakian live stream? The Kratian tangent?
When you said Mount of Olives, it sounded like you said Count of Olives. It
Count
made
of Olives.
me think one olive.
The Count of Olives. I am the Count of Olives.
One.
I was trying to do, what's his name? Old Nosferatu.
Oh.
To which we in this house say, yes, Ferratu. Good movie. Anyway, what a wild thing. You recommend them. I agree. I've had them on the channel. That's how much I'd recommend them. Okay, so Olivet Discourse is the discourse he gave on the Mount of Olives.
Something to do with
maybe.
today?
That's what we've seen, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, turn the TV on.
Yeah, it's bad. The world's, there's a lot of difficulty and...
This is a very good joke.
Okay.
Joke. This is really good. But I wasn't listening to what they said. That was really good.
Sicknesses, pestilence,
Okay.
The people's attitude.
resistant cells from everybody.
Yeah. So I'm like I said, I'm a Christian, and so that interests
Yeah.
me in terms of the Watchtower believing that we're in the last days.
What's just the watchtower? It's what the Bible talks about.
Right. Well, in the Olivet Discourse, one thing I would ask you.
I couldn't quite say if she said not the Watchtower or what's the Watchtower. One thing that I will say is, like, I don't think that witnesses would take kindly to you calling their religion Watchtower, because nobody really says that. Maybe a Bethelite would say that, somebody who actually is higher up in the corporation and has to think about those things, but I don't think most witnesses would use that terminology. It's definitely something that we as ex-members or just like secular writers on the outside world would say.
So I'm like I said, I'm a Christian, and so that interests me in
He
terms
did
of
say
the
that.
Watchtower believing that we're in the last days.
What's just the watchtower? It's what the Bible talks about.
That's what the Bible
Right.
talks
Well,
about,
in the
not
Olivet
Watchtower.
Discourse, one thing I would ask you about is the Olivet Discourse.
He loves that. He loves
Jesus,
calling it
The
that.
Olivet Discourse, the Great Tribulation passage, Matthew 24, Mark 13.
Sermon on the Mount.
No.
That's not the same.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jesus indicts the Jewish leadership, and then he departs the temple and goes to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples are freaking out.
I like all these fancy Bible theology words he's using. He comes across like a very humble man of
Just
Jesus.
said that all the blood of the righteous will be upon that generation, the generation he was speaking to. So the disciples are like, what's this? They're confused by it, and he just announced that the temple's going to be taken apart. There won't be left standing one stone upon another.
Which that happened in 70.
70 AD. That's right. And so Jesus has denounced the leadership. He says the temple's going to be desolate, and then they're saying,
I think this is everyone's been saying, these are just kind of cringy because he's going into like teacher mode. I just don't like it. I don't care for it. If somebody talked to me like that, I wouldn't like it.
Not the end of the world, at the end of the age.
The system is
Yeah, that's
I know. He's just like, come on, dude.
Yeah, because dismantling the temple would mean the coming of the Messianic age and the old age gone.
It's 1,000 years old.
Yeah, and so I guess my question would be, Jesus says in the Olivet Discourse, he tells them what they will see, his disciples.
Okay, this guy is so shitty at what he's trying to do. He's so bad. He's trying to try to if his goal is to be a Christian and imitate Jesus in his, I don't know, rhetorical strategies, this guy is using an obscure term that nobody knows, and we've got some Christians in the chat who had never heard of it, and I've read some books about theology and stuff. I've really not heard anybody call it that. And he now knows that they don't call it that, but he won't simplify his language and call it something more understandable just to try and reach their heart. Like Jesus might, This guy's coming across as really I'm going to teach you a lesson. And this point that he's making is so stupid. You're talking to Jehovah's Witnesses who believe all sorts of absolutely nutso things.
All these things.
And the thing that you're going to focus on is the Olivet Discourse and how maybe their technical reading of the last days is wrong. I guess I understand how you would want to focus on that since their religion's all based around the last days, but that's kind of a shallow understanding of how cults operate because their religion isn't based around anything. It's all based around fear and control. None of the individual beliefs matter at all. So if you undermine their belief in one little thing, they've got a million excuses and they can just look somewhere else in the magical book for a magical answer.
Will come upon this generation. So the wars and the rumors of wars,
the
famines.
I have to show off something though. Christina made me cute presents yesterday. I was working in here. I thought she was playing with Legos or something, but she was doing babe, what do you call these? Fuse beads. She made me fuse beads friends. So we have a stormtrooper. I think this is a scout trooper, I believe. We have our good friend R2. We have Ahsoka Tano, really an apostate icon, who is also up there, and in other places around the room. And of course, two of our best friends, another iconic apostate, Din Djarin, the Mandalorian himself, and Baby Yoda, Grago. Grago. That's how you pronounce it in Huttese. You don't say it like Jabba the Hutt in Huttese. You say Grago. Okay, sorry.
All the persecution, those sorts of things, he says that they were going to experience, and it would all take place before they all died. And it did. Well, it was all fulfilled. There was more wars in that period.
Yeah, this is stupid that he's doing this, because witnesses have an excuse for this. Like, he's arguing those prophecies are already fulfilled, therefore we are not living in the last days. But Jehovah's Witnesses, they've been around for a while, my guy. They figured that one out a while ago. They have this thing called larger fulfillments of prophecies. So there is a first fulfillment and then a larger fulfillment. So they would agree with this guy. I don't know if this couple is gonna really know what he's even talking about, because I'm able to pause him and recollect my thoughts. But yeah, they would agree that it was fulfilled in those days, but it is just now having a larger fulfillment.
The Pax Romana, when Jesus
do
gave
your
that
research,
prophecy,
dumb shit.
Piece of Rome.
Talk to me on my channel. And now I just called you a dumb shit. Live on air.
To say that there would be wars,
The 100 of
wars would have been
viewers.
surprising to them. It wasn't allowed in Rome. And the famines, the earthquakes, one of the largest earthquakes in human history was in Pompeii in about 62 AD.
Oh, nice.
It was like the whole world went to war with themselves.
Hold a bit.
Before the destruction of the temple, and the temple was destroyed in that generation. So I guess my point is Jesus said that
He
all
really
those
thinks
things
he's cooking
prophesied
too, is
in all
the
discourse
frustrating
were going
thing.
to occur before they all died.
You can just tell that he thinks he's crushing this. That's frustrating. Is that he's like, oh, me with my coat and my very prominent back pockets.
And I would argue that they did on time and as planned.
I called out this dude's
So that's
pockets.
a
He's
different
got a
question, is
baby
I've had
now.
relationships with what's that?
Greater fulfillment. If you talk to
Greater fulfillment! What did I tell you, people? And people didn't believe me. They tried to question me and say I was crazy. But he said it right there.
that we believe that the greater fulfillment has happened. It happened in the first century, and there's another fulfillment that we see happening.
Like the good news that the kingdom wasn't preached.
Right, like what was this?
Now the inhabitants
We're doing for Bible.
Like, what was this supposed to... What did he think was going to happen as a result of doing this? That they would just sputter and melt into a pile of shit?
Yeah, that's the message.
So in Matthew 24, where he says the gospel will be proclaimed in all the world. Yeah, and did you know that Paul said that had occurred in the first century?
Yeah, they do know this.
it occurred to a certain
Yeah, to a certain degree.
He said it was the gospel was preached to every creature under heaven.
So what's your hope? What are you trying to get at?
Well, I guess my point is as a Christian, I mean the Watchtower organization began with Charles Taze Russell, and he had a different version of God, a different version of Christ, a different version of the gospel.
Picked such a good spot to
And the
film it, too.
organization prophesied the end of the world numerous times in the 19th and 20th century, and they were
If you know all that, why are you talking to me?
because I care for you. Same reason you're out here talking to others.
We believe what we believe and we're really happy with it. And so it's good to agree to disagree.
Okay, but don't you believe I'm lost? Don't you?
No, I'm not saying that.
You don't believe I'm lost?
We just believe that we're happy and we can agree to disagree.
Well, that's a good modern.
Well, she's lying about that. Okay, so this guy's ultimate point, I guess, was that how could your religion be accurate? If your religion existed after these things were fulfilled, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of a confusing point. I agree. He's losing them again. Anytime you mention Watchtower history, they shut down. I totally agree. So if I was going to give people advice for talking to witnesses, which, grain of salt, because it's not like I talk to them in person a ton anymore, but I do know from experience the kinds of things that you shouldn't say, and I think this guy's done a lot of that. This is one of them. Like, he's not terrible. This is probably the least bad car crash video I've seen in some ways, but, like, witnesses are very aware of the fact that there are people out there who will try and say that their religion is wrong because they got stuff wrong in the past, because of Charles Taze Russell being a human guy in the 1800s, they'll definitely shut down if you talk about CSA, because they just, the witnesses don't know that's happening, and so it will seem totally insane to them. Or they do know it's happening at least a little bit, and they have found a way to kind of wrestle with it in their own mind, or like kind of negotiate with themselves and find a way for it to make sense. And disfellowshipping is probably another one that would definitely make them shut down. I think in Watchtower history. So I think I showed a clip of this in the real estate scam video. Oh, no. I did a rebuttal of this guy's whole talk. John Eckeren, he gave this talk about how Jehovah's Witnesses are not an American religion. And he gives an example of somebody, when he was in the ministry one time, trying to challenge him about how Watchtower can't be the one true religion because of Charles Taze Russell, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what witnesses are taking away from a talk like that. They're taking away, if somebody ever comes at me with some Charles Taze Russell stuff in the ministry, they're an opposer and they don't know what they're talking about. So that's what they're going to think. You have to ask them things that they have never thought about before. And probably this is not the right stance to take doing it. And also, all of these things are definitely things that Jehovah's Witnesses have thought before. Like, he hasn't gotten them off script one time. And I think that's really the whole point of doing street epistemology, is to try and get somebody off script. I think that's the point of atheist call-in shows too. Like, that's why I find them interesting, is Christians or theists or conspiracy theorists will call in with essentially a script, because that's what you do when you're in one of these like cults or high control groups, or you're in this conspiratorial mindset. You have a script. Like, all the flat earther videos are kind of the same. They have like the same 5 things they're saying, but then you can kind of go down the rabbit hole from there. And the only way to really get somebody off script, I think, is just to start asking them questions about, like, well, why do you think that's true? That's probably not something that this guy wants to do too much, because he apparently believes in very silly things that aren't true.
An American way of thinking, but not a gospel of the kingdom way of thinking. Because doesn't Jesus say, I am the way, the truth, and the life?
I also wouldn't use this argument if you're an American, because, I mean, like, I don't know, it's just going to kind of ring hollow.
Yeah, we don't want to debate. So.
But don't you believe Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life?
We do.
So is Jesus the eternal God, or is he a created creature of Jehovah?
They have to do this.
And the word there you're quoting from.
Right?
Well, no, the word patatikos doesn't mean
The word patatikos.
So you don't have an answer.
Wow, this guy was like, well, they don't even know about the word pakastikos. I'm going to give him pakastikos and Olive Garden doctrine, or whatever he said earlier. The olive tree teaching discourse. This guy sucks. This is so bad. I don't understand what it is. Let me tell you something I cherish from my time in Jehovah's Witnesses is a no bullshit attitude towards Trinitarians. It's very frustrating to talk to these people. They just have to bring it up all the time. It's such a weird thing to care about at all. Like, it all sounds silly and made up, because it is, but also, like, it really wouldn't change anything about their beliefs. Like, you have to understand this. If tomorrow the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses put out a series of articles and videos on the website explaining to Jehovah's Witnesses that they were wrong and that the Trinity is true after all, most Jehovah's Witnesses, the vast majority, would stay in the religion and now believe in the Trinity. Great job. You didn't change the underlying thing that is actually wrong morally about the religion. Like, when you focus on these little discrepancies in scripture, it really doesn't matter that much, except when it has to do with, like, morality in scripture. One thing that I think is very valuable, that I found really effective, is all of the ways that they change the wording of the Bible to sanitize certain passages There are passages in the Bible where in most translations, or at least in like most respected translations, it's clear that the Israelites raped people as part of their battle. I'm obviously not a theologian. I don't know all the fine details there, but the New World Translation like totally changes the wording. And like that kind of stuff, I think, can be valuable in showing the way that the New World Translation is worded deceptively. That could be fruitful territory because Jehovah's Witnesses don't think they're afraid of other translations of the Bible. So I think that's a really good way to get people thinking, honestly. But this little stuff, anything related to the Trinity, you would have to, you could like do water torture on a Jehovah's Witness and they would not believe in the Trinity. And you know, like I'm an apostate and I don't believe in it anymore either. So same here. I stand with my JW brothers and sisters on this. Like, that's just the one thing that they totally feel the most confident about. And on the off chance that you did convince them, it wouldn't actually really change whether or not the religion was true. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just a complete waste of time. And so, I'm kind of sorry that I wasted your time, but I'm also enjoying them, so too bad.
Well,
I like boring stuff. What can I tell you?
You don't.
We'd rather.
Well, you're here to propagate your message, right? So I'm an opportunity for your mission. Well, you should know that I'm a minister of the gospel.
Oh wow, no
You
way.
guys are
No
teaching
way.
people a false God and a false Christ
The way she just desperately was like, please help me.
and a false gospel. And if you continue to do so, you're leading other people. So do I. This is a public space. And I'm just here to talk to you in love and grace and respect.
Oh yeah, this guy's been really graceful and loving. I mean, I don't know. I do think he's been respectful because, like, he's not wrong about this is a public space. One thing that I do think is worth pointing out, because legitimately, this is something that really stuck with me for my entire life. I don't know if I've talked about this on the channel, so this is a new doubt that I had. A new early doubt that I don't think I've talked about before, but I remember very vividly being out in service one time, and my mom was having the most amazing conversation with this woman out in service, and you know how rare that is as a witness, but like I could just tell that she was nailing it. Like my mom was really good in the ministry because she's a people person. She's really good at connecting with people. Makes friends everywhere she goes. And so she was like really vibing with this woman, and the woman was like really into the Bible and stuff and spirituality. And I could just tell like, wow, this is the kind of experience that I hear about in the magazines and at the meetings, but I've never really seen it happen before. This is really cool. And the woman very innocently is like, oh my God, we're having such a good conversation. You're giving me a book. Let me give you a book. I want to share with you something I read. And she runs inside her house excitedly. And my mom looks at me and she's like, we can't accept other people's literature. I was like, oh, why? She's like, it's just, well, my mom said to the woman when she came back was that, it's just a rule because we go to so many doors. If we accepted, literature from every single person whose house we go to, then, we wouldn't be able to carry it all. Something like that kind of made sense, but wouldn't like hurt her feelings. But, it did strike me as unreasonable that we were handing out literature and asking people to read it, and that somebody would in good faith come to us and be really excited and want to share something with us, and that we would just turn them down. Like, no, this is a rule and there's no exceptions. And I think it also kind of revealed that it was hollow, that woman kind of felt like she had actually made a little connection with my mom beyond her being a door-to-door saleswoman, basically. And the minute that happened, the artifice of it was exposed, and the woman like totally turned around and was very upset and kind of read my mom for filth. I have no memory of what she actually said, but that I was probably 6 or 7 when that happened. I remember that so vividly. Like I remember exactly what the house looked like and everything. So I think that Like in principle, I don't disagree with the guy being like, well, you're here sharing something, so let me also share something. I think that's fair. Like, I totally agree with that, but his vibe was just wrong the whole time. I think people don't understand sometimes that I would never talk to a Jehovah's Witness in real life the way I talk on this YouTube channel, where I'm being performative and talking to people who already agree with me. That wouldn't be cool.
Okay. Have a great day. Well, since it's a public space, I will tell you that the Bible teaches there's only one God. Jesus is the eternal God. He wasn't created by Jehovah. He's always existed alongside the Father.
Okay, I'm done with this guy. But did you see what happened? Like, instinctively, the guy went to just pack up, or no, sorry, it was his wife who went to pack up the literature cart and go, because that's also the training that Jehovah's Witnesses have. They've been told, and it really is a safety thing, because I frankly think the ministry is kind of unsafe, or maybe very unsafe as it is, but they just tell people working at the carts at any sign of trouble, pack up and leave. Like, don't be prideful. Like, don't, because this is a safety issue. There are people that like might have a gun or try and cause a scene. No good's going to come from it. So just protect yourself and get out of there. And I think that that's genuinely good advice. And so, and witnesses really aren't used to being challenged and asked follow-up questions. They really will shut down when you start to get to an area where they don't have a scripted response. So I think you got to be more strategic than this guy. And that's why I don't really do it. It's because I don't trust my ability to be strategic. I think that I would probably, I could see myself getting like sarcastic about it or something, and going smarmy apostate, Okay, well, let's see what the commenters have to say about this, because I am morbidly curious. Man, I've been waiting for y'all to post more videos like this. Praise God. Oh no. I could not imagine. Wait. I could not imagine being in a religion that I could not defend. Okay, they did defend their religion, though. I think this is a problem. They did. A problem with online debates generally is that both parties almost always feel that their side won. You can watch somebody like Jordan Peterson get utterly trounced in a debate by Matt Dillahunty, but like, if you're a hardcore Jordan Peterson fan, you probably, your mind's not going to be changed, because the debate is kind of, it's a performance more than anything. And that, like, this guy was putting on a performance. And because of that, this guy can't even see that, like, the witnesses did defend their religion. Maybe it was just literally hard to hear. Witness for Jesus. Oh, we might have to check this out, actually. I enjoyed this, Jeff. As a former JW, I knew they wouldn't know the term Olivet discourse. Yeah. Wow, imagine being cringe, bro. Can you imagine Jesus condescending to somebody who didn't share his beliefs because he used some obscure religious term? Like, this is absurd. You have to be able to talk to the common man. They are kept from learning terms which we use in Christian churches by their org never teaching it to them. As soon as they recognized your knowledge, they shut down. Because you became a teacher. For them, they must be the teacher in the situation. God bless all your future efforts. Much love. You know what we atheists don't have? Sorry. I did the thing. I hit the back button. We've got a sensitive back button here, folks. I did die. I died from these comments. They're pretty bad. If I do this, does it get, yeah, that's more visible. Okay. So that was Witness for Jesus. There seems to be a lot of agreement here. Because it's, okay, good. No, this is actually true. Because it's not a biblical term. It's Christendom jargon. Yeah. Actually, Craig Little is based, and Witness for Jesus is totally up his own ass on this one. I knew it. I knew it. He's got a channel, guys. Should we check it out? Oh, book interview. New book proves Jesus is God. No. That feels mean-spirited. And for the first time ever in the history of the channel, I don't feel like being mean-spirited today. Okay. They're there, but they don't hear you. They show no interest in talking to you. It happens all over the world. I do agree that they showed no interest in talking to him. That's kind of weird. I don't know why that is, but there's something like when you are in the religion and you're standing at a cart, it's such a cozy job. It's such a cushy job, and you are truly expecting to talk to nobody and for nobody to give you more than 30 seconds of your time. And you're also kind of directed to not prolong the conversation too much. So it's like it's weird. They're really not prepared for anybody to talk to them for a long time at the literature cart, because they are when they come to your door, like with the presentation and stuff. I don't know, weird, really, really bizarre. Okay, we got one last thing that I want to talk about, and we're gonna have to branch out into the aforementioned Scientology territory, folks. But first, I'm gonna take a little Warcher break, and we're going to just hang out a little bit with Jacob Ruff.
It's interesting. So, planet Earth. Perfect. No. Now, think about it. Maybe we've that puts to or persecute yourself. Very
weird. I like touched my Bluetooth and it paused the Jacob Ruff silent supercut. Hey, by the way, it's not really showing up on camera, but this shirt is the it's the Ghost Tour. It's the Ghost Tour shirt from I Think You Should Leave. I had a ex-Jehovah's Witness friend of mine get me that for my birthday this year. It was it's really lovely, and I just wanted to shout that out. Shout out to a real one. Okay, let's take a look at somebody that and I guess I should give a little shout out to I think it's Growing Up in Scientology. I saw that they posted a video about this. I didn't watch it because I thought, ooh, I should look into this. But they did a video about RFK Jr.'s ties to Scientology. And I was like, what? That's pretty crazy. So I'm interested in this. This is it's like a Scientology blog that's been running for like a long time, The Underground Bunker. And I thought we'd just read it. I don't know. So maybe it's bullshit. So we'll put our media literacy skills to the test. And I can also try and whip out a RFK Jr. impression. Very touching indeed. That's one of my favorite things he says in the awkward silent supercut. I know it's cringe, but I like watching that those awkward silent supercuts. I make them for me. You know, if you make art for yourself, you never work a day in your life. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, so this is the Underground Bunker on Substack. They are an ex-Scientology blog that like posts daily news updates about them. Okay. And I think I've got a RFK Jr. impression I can try and whip out and talk about. Okay, so this is relevant to our interests because Scientology is a cult that's very similar to Jehovah's Witnesses, and I want to learn more about, in detail, like beyond the broad strokes that I know. I want to try and actually learn and retain information about Scientology. I should put it like that. Sometimes I actually do read things, but most of the time when that happens, I don't retain it. So I might as well not have done it. And then, you know, RFK Jr., is he the head of the FDA? Is that what he is? The article probably says. In late January, as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was In late January, as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was going through Senate hearings before he was confirmed as the nation's top health official and will lead the State Department of Health and... Wait, what? Before he was confirmed as the nation's top health official and will lead the Department of Health and Human Services. That's a dubious sentence. Some of the toughest questioning was about his connections to a law firm by the name of Wisner Baum. Okay, I'm going to recommend a new editor for the Underground Bunker. Senator Elizabeth Warren was particularly focused on whether RFK Jr. would continue to receive consulting fees from Wisner Baum, who is suing Merck, the makers of Gardasil, the HPV vaccine. Okay, yes, this lines up so far. CBS, CNN, Reuters, basically every major news outlet closely covered the issue of whether Kennedy intended to continue to receive consulting fees, even if he was confirmed to lead HHS. And the answer was yes, he did intend to keep receiving money, but said he would pass it on to one of his sons. Right. Yeah, okay. So I remember this news story. It's deeply unethical that he's going to keep getting money from this like company he did consulting work for. There's a pretty clear conflict of interests, but hi all. Lay Remedy, Scientology in the Aftermath is a good documentary. I agree. That was the first one that I watched. And its very existence was important to my waking up process because seeing trailers for it on TV and knowing that I was afraid to watch it, like, had a big impact on me. Like, I knew that I was tempted to watch it. Okay. So that's, we know that he has this connection to Wisner Baum, and he was asked about it as it had his Senate confirmation hearing. Okay, it was a widely covered story, but what none of those major news outlets mentioned was that Wisner Baum is a law firm led by OT Scientologists who have worked with Kennedy for many years, and one of them, Michael Baum, was even an unindicted co-conspirator in Scientology's notorious Snow White program that infiltrated the U.S. government in the 1970s. Let's make some notes to the side here about things to look up. Michael Baum. I don't know if this is the best way to check and see if stories are true, but usually if I see a detail that I'm like, do I know that for sure? I will kind of open a new tab and Google it real quick just so I can remember to look at it when I'm done. I don't know. Is that a pro tip or is that a amateur tip? It feels like an amateur tip because I feel like an amateur. If you've read our book about Paulette Cooper, The Unbreakable Miss Lovely, Paulette Cooper, you will remember the chapters we devoted to a detailed retelling of the Snow White program, misnamed Operation Snow White by the media, the largest infiltration of the U.S. government in history, before Doge at least, which resulted in a 1977 raid of Scientology by the FBI. Yeah, this is like one of the most interesting and bananas things that's ever happened. Like, this is actually one of the things I want to make an effort to learn about this year. The research project that I've been talking about for the last couple months, but I just keep on putting off due to other things. I get a lot into L. Ron Hubbard's affirmations, his kind of weird self-hypnosis diary that he kept before he wrote Dianetics. That's like a particular fascination of mine. But one thing I've never done a deep dive on is the Operation Snow White. Like, I just know about it, whatever was said in Going Clear, and like all the little documentaries and memoirs that people have written. Another thing that like I know about but have retained zero information on, because I don't remember why they did this. Was it just to get tax exempt status? 11 top church officials, including Mary Sue Hubbard, wife of Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, ultimately pleaded guilty to conspiracy and went to prison for their part in for their part in break-ins at U.S. government agencies. Others, including Ron Hubbard himself, were named unindicted co-conspirators. Yeah, his wife, like, kind of took the fall. So, worth pointing out, by the way, because I do talk about conspiracy theories and stuff on this channel, but conspiracies do happen. That's an important disclaimer. And generally speaking, I don't remember who I read that said this, but they were like, the difference between a conspiracy theory and a real conspiracy is that we learn about real conspiracies. We have evidence because people blow the whistle and talk about them. And conspiracy theories are all kind of compelled by the supposed lack of evidence for things that they're going in with the assertion must be true. That's kind of my understanding. Anyway, one of them was a young Scientology spy by the name of Michael Baum, one of the guys involved in Operation Snow White. When the Snow White defendants pleaded guilty in 1979 rather than go to trial, they signed a stipulation of evidence, which was a detailed description of what the government found they had done over the course of the program. In that stipulation, the government explained how Scientology operatives repeatedly, for example, broke into Interpol offices in order to steal records regarding Mr. Hubbard. Okay, so this is a quote. Over the next month, the defendant, Sharon Thomas, and Mr. Baum burglarized the Interpol liaison office at the Justice Department on at least 3 occasions. That's fucking insane. Those raids netted some 3 feet of copies of Interpol documents. On each occasion, they used the photocopying equipment and supplies located on the 4th floor of the Department of Justice building and stole the copies. What? That's amazing that they made the copies in the building they were stealing them from. Like, is that a pro move or is that an amateur move? I don't know. Like another of the unindicted operatives, Kendrick Moxon, Baum went on to become an attorney and today is a partner at Wisner Baum. Doesn't that feel like being an unindicted co-conspirator should preclude you from becoming an attorney? Like, it seems like that maybe you just don't get to have that job anymore. That's the consequence, is that you can't, be a law defending person if you are a law breaking person. I don't know if that's fair. So this guy, Michael Baum, became an attorney and today is a partner at Wisner Baum, this place that RFK Jr. has business with. Like, big money business. Scientology records indicate that by 1991, he had achieved OT6, one of the highest operating Thetan auditing levels on Scientology's bridge to total freedom. Holy shit. Here's what you got to remember about these, like, rich, wealthy, elite people, is they're just people, and some of them are just as fucking crazy as you and me. You know how we all knew smart people when we were in the cult, and we like to think of ourselves as smart and we were in a cult? Yeah, sometimes just fucking attorneys and really smart, wealthy, creative people become OT level 6. Because who among us does not want to ascend that bridge to total freedom? The Wisner in the law firm's name is Brent Wisner, a younger man, but also an OT Scientologist. Okay, well, that's actually fucking crazy. So they're both Scientologists. In 2019, Wisner-Baum won a lawsuit against Monsanto over its weed killer Roundup, saying it had caused cancer in users. Kennedy was a consultant on the case, and after the victory, he posted this photo to his Facebook account, which includes Brent Wisner, second from left, Michael Baum, third from the left, and Kennedy himself, second from the right. That's bad. That's not good. You know, now we're getting into there's quotes and photo evidence. I've watched many of the great trial lawyers, but none better than Brent. Oh, wait a minute. This is Kennedy speaking. I watched many of the great lawyers, but none better than Brent. Judges and juries love him for his integrity, lightning fast wit, easy humor, infectious laugh, and buoyant magnetism, Kennedy wrote about the photo. So he didn't just post it. He talked about how amazing Brent is. That's one of those things that makes you say, Brent Weiser and Baum are also at the center of a controversy we wrote about for the Daily Beast in August. For years, the law firm has been pursuing litigation against the two small companies that manufacture the devices used in ECT, a life-saving treatment that puts small doses of electricity into the brains of severely depressed patients. Yeah. I heard about this from the comedian Gary Coleman. He told me all about it. Scientology hates psychiatry with a white-hot passion, and it has long been the organization's greatest desire to destroy ECT. Now, that's wild, because ECT, truly, to look at it and to hear about it, seems like an invention from Scientology. Like, it's like attacking your brainwaves with electricity. Paraphrasing, but it seems like an L. Ron Hubbard kink to me. But they hate it, apparently. That's funny to me. If they can put the two small device manufacturers out of business, we explained in the Daily Beast story, doctors will have no choice but to stop using their machines, making ECT unavailable in this country and probably the rest of the world. It is Wisner-Baum that is leading that litigation effort and has been for years. Okay, this rules. This rules. This is genuinely an interesting connection. That's kind of bananas to me that Scientology doesn't like ECT. Why would that be? Because honestly, one of the reasons why I was skeptical of it, I think, is just because it just reminds me of Scientology machines and electroshock therapy and shit. Like, I know it's not like that. It actually has like a pretty good success rate, but if you would have told me, oh, this was invented by Scientology, I would have been like, that makes total sense. Like, that sounds like what L. Ron Hubbard essentially wanted to do and try to kill himself by frying himself of his thetans. But I guess it's only okay when they do it. And so the duo Scientology law team that's like, I don't know, they consulted with RFK Jr., so he gets money from them. Meanwhile, Scientology cheers on those efforts through its unhinged front group that agitates against psychiatry, Citizens Commission on Human Rights. Ooh, I don't know anything about this. Let's put that in a googly tab. Let's put that in a googly tab. Just singing one of my favorite songs. CCHR not only constantly harasses the medical profession for its use of ECT, but also for the prescription of antidepressants known as SSRIs, claiming, for example, that any mass murder, especially those at schools, are the result of psychiatric drugs. Yeah, this is why RFK Jr. is a fucking shit for brains and is genuinely a scary person to be in charge of the HHS, because, like, man, I am only alive because of that shit. I think I come through as a pretty authentic person on the stream. Like, it's not turning me into some sycophantic robot. It has turned me into a radical leftist, though. So that's, he might have something there. But that's that's pretty scary. I hadn't thought about that connection to Scientology. RFK Scientologist makes, on the merits, total sense. How's that for conspiracy brain? So they constantly harass the medical profession and SSRIs. Scientific evidence does not support this, but it's one of the shibboleths? One of these shibboleths of the anti-psychiatry movement that psych drugs cause mass murders. Yeah, this is like a Alex Jones thing too. And you can see how healthy he is. And now, as soon as Kennedy was confirmed to lead the HHS, the White House issued an executive order that lists the things it wants him to accomplish. And among those goals is taking aim at antidepressants. Yeah, absolutely fucking demented. As Mother Jones points out, this claim about antidepressants and shootings has been one of Kennedy's obsessions. And if you read the executive order, it could almost come out of a CCHR pamphlet. In fact, CCHR knows that in Kennedy, it has a like-minded ally. Oh shit, they literally tweeted it out. Earlier this week, we told you about OT Scientologists at the Kennedy Center in the Ukraine talks, and now involved with the highest health official in the land, who will soon be pushing an agenda very much like Scientology's own. And again, we'll point out, we're not even a month into this new administration. God fucking damn it. With each sip of my tap water, I become a gayer and gayer frog.
The water of life.
Hey, this frog maybe. Maybe this frog right here. Now little Bosif is hanging out with us down here. Here, man. Come up and show everybody. Come on, Bo. We want to play the sound drop for you. Yeah. Bo is my best friend. He loves getting his head scratched more than I love just about anything. I wish I could be him for a day so I could get away with ruining absolutely everything in our apartment all the time, but also being so cute that we haven't booted him out on the streets. And the other thing that we really like about getting to see our little fur friends is that it reminds us of God's gift.
Our spiritual paradise is a place that has many harmless animals.
Now, what do we mean by this?
Well, Karen Booth says exercise is 5 times more effective than SSRIs. At what? That doesn't... No, you're wrong. How about there are people, a lot of people, way smarter than you in every way, who have dedicated their lives to understanding this one thing. And just, you know, because there's no evidence to support what you're saying, you should just believe the thing that's not crazy. Just to be safe. Just to be safe, believe smart thing that makes sense. Sorry, that was mean. But I don't like it when people attack me for the prescription medication that I use to manage my depression. Because, you know, it's really, really difficult to do when you're clinically depressed is exercise. But anyway. That was it. That was the article, though. But, man, that's really fucking fascinating. Hi, buddy. I know. He liked to tap my shoulder. Yeah, what about for people who have disabilities and who can't exercise? I mean, you know, these RFK Jr. people become eugenicists because they kind of believe in this idea that you can just kind of, I don't know, elbow grease your way out of every condition known to man, and that every advancement in modern medicine is a lie, except for whatever bullshit RFK Jr. says. demented. Why believe something so silly? Okay, I feel like there was something else I wanted to watch, but now I don't remember what it was. But I wanted to hang out with y'all. This has been fun. I'm having a really good time on this stream. Home slices. Are we having a good time? Having a good time? Okay. Yes, good diet and exercise is great. It's not a cure-all. Yeah, by the way, I feel like there's a weird thing that sometimes I've heard from like RFK Jr. defenders. I guess it's kind of a right-wing talking point that like the left is like against diet and exercise. Like we're basically like pro-obesity, anti-diet and exercise. Like it's just fucking crazy. Like no, like everybody agrees that diet and exercise is really good and that everybody should do it. It's just that, you know, there might not really be any benefit to fat shaming people because it doesn't seem to actually help them get skinnier, so there's really no need to do it. Stuff like that. I don't know. But by golly, there just isn't really anything, is there, to watch. There's nothing fun. Wait. What am I talking about? This is nothing if not Sunday service. We could look at the Watchtower. Because we could, and frankly, I could learn a little something about how to honor my wife. I think this is the article that gives us the new light on, you know, eating your wife's coochie. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I said it, and I'm sorry that I thought it, and oh boy. I don't know if I can handle this or not. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I'm definitely like super interested in furthering research into like psychedelics and shrooms and stuff. Yeah, demonizing psych meds literally kills people. Yeah, when you're depressed, you don't feel like exercise, right? Okay, I know what I wanted to try and watch. Because this is kind of, it feels like a research stream. It's giving research stream if I can be an adult pretending to be with it, which I really am not. I did just say with it. Christina was eager to point out. But the research video I'm working on is kind of about how cults weaponize sexuality, but specifically as it relates to self-pleasure, shall we say. That's how that like porn edit. Wait, don't turn off the stream that I made. The like montage of all the times Jehovah's Witnesses say pornography in their weird videos. I started making that thinking that I would make it a part of this video that I'm making, but really it's about how the common denominator between a bunch of cult leaders is a certain irrational hatred and fear of masturbation. Like it's a weird subject that comes up, and it's interesting to think about that in relation to the rise of the NoFap movement, which is just kind of contrary to what a lot of scientific research says, which is that it's actually healthy and maybe preferable to masturbate, but at the very least, there's nothing wrong with it. That there don't seem to be any negative effects whatsoever, but that suppressing it can be bad. And so that's kind of what the video is about, is tying those things together, and the way that trying to take an approach of just demonizing a thing tends to just enable that controlling cult-like behavior, as opposed to actually solving your problem and making you feel better. And because I think with the rise of Christian nationalism, it's a little concerning that like the Speaker of the House is one of those guys that has like the Covenant Eyes creepy app where it's like the whole family can monitor each other's pornography use. It's supposed to be basically mutually assured destruction, but in practice, it feels a little creepy and incestuous. But those are the people that are now in charge of our country at the highest levels of government, including the Supreme Court and the Speaker of the House and that Pete Hegseth guy. He's like that. I forget what department he's head of, but true. Right. Yeah, I can't keep track of all the jokers. But anyway, one thing that I actually really haven't done is sit down and watch weird NoFap videos and react to them. Like, I need to watch them. When I started this process, I realized that I had watched videos about the NoFap thing in the past. Like Hassan had reacted to some, and Noah Samson had reacted to some, and like really funny videos. But just for whatever reason, I hadn't really thought much about it then, and I'm just thinking more about it now. Thinking more about masturbation. Make of that what you will. So let's take a look-see. It does feel a little weird to just... Oh, okay. So what I need to do, first of all, you may have noticed in your YouTube user settings that you can do this thing where you pause your search history. Now, I'm forgetting at the moment where that is. God damn it. Oh, okay. You go to history and you hit pause watch history. Kind of seems like some kind of sneaky porn filter, actually. Like, I don't want mom to know that I'm watching videos of girls kissing on YouTube. But what I have found is that it is actually for YouTubers so that I can spend 3 hours looking up the soundtrack to Mario Hoops 3-on-3 basketball to try and find a funny song for a video and not have my feed dominated by obscure Mario soundtracks, for the next 6 months. Okay, so I'm enabling that while I uncomfortably search for NoFap benefits. I don't know. What are some key words here? Oh, no, I think I found a winner immediately. Don't you mean self-abuse? Yeah, that's a really, really upsetting way to think about that. It really doesn't make sense either. Nothing bad happens. I think religions really struggle to demonize pornography, or not. Well, pornography is different. The NoFap thing, it's just kind of hard because it's like, you can't, it's hard to make an argument that it's really doing anything bad, that it's harmful in any way, even to yourself. Not that you can't be addicted to things. Okay, my bad. I need to share my screen. I need to share my screen. All right, NoFap benefits. This is from a channel called No Nut November Challenge Improvement Phil. This is 3.7 million subscribers. Wow. Okay, and this appears to be a sincere video. I was just kind of taking a peek at the comments just to make sure it wasn't like an ironic thing that I would unironically enjoy. I want to get the straight dope, like I would go to jw.org for a Jehovah's Witness video. I want to go where the sheeple are. So prepare yourselves, folks. We're about to go into some really uncharted waters here on Alt-Worldly. But not really, because how different is this really going to be from those Pillowgate videos in practice?
Improvement pill here. When I first started my NoFap journey, I actually documented my experiences in a journal. I had amazing streaks where I not only abstained from porn and masturbation.
Whoa, whoa. This is already way crazier than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think there was going to be journals. I didn't think it would start with my journey and my journals. Are those things related? Are those words related? Do we have any linguists in the chat?
But ejaculation as well, mainly because I was single. And I recorded all of the benefits I saw whenever they came up. So because No Nut November is coming around again, I decided to dig up my old journal entries to give you an idea of what benefits I saw throughout this journey. Hopefully...
Couldn't waterboard me into reading my diary from when I was 14 years old and a Jehovah's Witness who was trying not to fap. Couldn't... Gun to my head, I would say pull the trigger. That's what we're talking here. I mean, I don't think I actually kept any journals because I was absolutely terrified of anybody ever finding out, you know? So, like, the idea of having documented evidence, it's the old don't take notes on a criminal conspiracy that I think we might have been talking about earlier. That might have been a callback, but it feels like it was a million years ago. But boy, oh boy, this is grim. This is grim. And I want to be clear here. I think that you shouldn't be a chronic anything, okay? But I just don't think it's a big deal if you masturbate at all. And I don't think you should feel any shame about it because everything we know here in reality, where we trust science because we can read and shit, it says that it's perfectly healthy and fine. So there's no reason to not do it unless you have a bunch of internalized shame. That's what the video, by the way, is mostly about, is how cults create a problem by making you ashamed, and then they sell you the solution, which is the religion.
This will motivate and inspire some of you to take on this challenge because it genuinely changed my life, and I know it can do the same for you if you give it a try. This is the NoFap /
no. Oh no, I didn't catch this. I didn't catch the fact that it's like, oops, that was a whoopsie day. That was my cheat day. Like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. November semen retention benefit time. What is happening? Millions have seen this and approved of what they have seen. But anyway, my point is just like, I think it is unhealthy to monitor what we understand to be a healthy behavior like this. Like, why is it that you feel the need to compulsively track this? Because what that does is it puts it front of mind. It makes you think about the thing more. This is anecdotal, but my experience is that I consume less pornography now as a worldly person than I did as a Jehovah's Witness, because I just don't think about it nearly as much. Like, even being married, yes, like I confess, Christina knows this, but I would sneak a peek at the old corn husks every once in a while. It's a euphemism. I'll let you put two and two together. But I don't really know what this bit is anymore. But I think the desire to do this, when it comes from a place of shame, it kind of enables a shame cycle where you feel ashamed that you do this thing. So you live in this state of repression and internalized guilt. And in order to get some kind of relief from this guilt, you masturbate. And that shame cycle starts all over again. And I think, you know, what's happened here is like they've taken something that could be totally healthy, and now you have an unhealthy relationship with it. It happens with really anything that we do. We can become unhealthily fixated on anything. It's not that different from having, an eating disorder one way or the other, either overeating or purging or not eating or whatever. Like, but you do need to have a balance in your life where you eat food to be alive, but not so much that it's unhealthy. And that's just everything in your life. When it comes to your bodily functions, you gotta take regular shits. If you don't take any shits, that means you're constipated and you need to go to the doctor. But if you're shitting constantly, that means you have diarrhea and you need to go to the doctor. But you gotta have some shits. This is a high level learning channel, kind of about high concept things like piss and shit. Hopefully it's all making sense. We are only 38 seconds into the video, but I really didn't expect it to be this much of a, forgive the term, banger.
November benefit timeline. The first 48 hours, days 1 and 2. Okay.
This is such a high effort video is another thing that's blowing my mind, is that a lot of work is going into this, and he is pretty charismatic, I think, the guy presenting it.
Okay, so this was always the toughest period for me. The urges were strong, and there was always a ton of brain fog. I had a hard time thinking clearly, and I found myself stuttering a lot during conversations. This was
No! That is a level of horniness no person should ever reach. That's how you turn into a serial killer or something. If you're so horny that you're shaking. I mean, speaking of I think you should leave, there's a sketch in I Think You Should Leave where there's a guy driving along. He has an ironic honk if you're horny bumper sticker, and a guy comes up behind him and is honking his horn like a crazy person, freaking out and convulsing. And he's like, finally you stopped. I'm so horny. I can't stand it. I don't know what to do. And it's it's absurd because there's just no reason for anybody to be that horny, that it's that big of a problem in their life. And so I would say that if you are reaching a point where you are literally shaking, you have a different problem. If you start shaking normally, that might mean that your blood sugar's low and you need to eat something or take a sip of a Capri Sun. I'm not a dietitian, and this analogy is kind of getting away from me, but I'm just this means you have an unhealthy relationship with the thing.
Actually, the period of time that I relapsed the most into, especially if I stayed indoors and didn't have any plans for the day. Because there's so much brain fog, I had less self-awareness. So I didn't even notice myself slipping into the state that ultimately caused me to relapse many, many times. It almost felt like...
This is so bizarre because he now has articulated the shame cycle, but he doesn't seem to understand that it's his fixation on masturbating that is causing the problem to begin with. If he was able to accept this in a healthy way in his own mind and make peace with his own sexuality and his own need to do that and not feel bad about it, then this wouldn't be an issue. But I think this is it maybe not religiously motivated, but it's kind of hard to imagine that it's not at least a little bit religiously motivated. Unless they're on some really weird, esoteric red pill shit. I don't know. We're kind of Jordan Peterson territory, I guess. But I don't know. That's kind of a different thing. They're... what's her name? Belle Reeves? This book called The Black Pill came out last year. It's really, really fantastic. It's a real retrospective on the alt-right, and she was a reporter that was really covering it from the beginning. She's an excellent writer. I think it might be Elle Reeves. But she starts out the story because it starts with the 4chan incel people, basically. And it tells the story of basically this guy having sex for the first time and losing his virginity and just sobbing, crying because he realizes now he can't really be a member of this 4chan community. He can't be a part of the incel community because he's no longer a virgin. He's no longer a wizard. He's lost his magic powers, and it completely disturbs him. And he feels like he's ruined his life, and it makes him hate the woman he slept with. you know, this is insane. That's a completely insane reaction to have to having consensual relations with a fellow adult who's consenting, and like this to me is giving that same vibe where like this NoFap stuff is really toxic. There's no reason to be this serious about this, my dude.
Like I didn't know what I was doing until I had already done it. The only benefits I really saw in the first 48 hours...
Jesus Christ, he went into a pornography stupor. But that's like... I want to be clear that I'm not making fun of this guy because I was this guy for most of my life. Like, most of my life experience is being this type of person who's constantly thinking about and obsessing about how much you're jerking off or looking at porn. Because when you're a Jehovah's Witness, you have to keep track of those things. So, like, I had my little calendars and, like, little contracts I would make with myself and crying about this shit. Like, I've been there, and so it's because I know how deeply unhealthy and unnecessary it is that I care and think that this shit needs to be called out more for being really cult-like.
Increase in my brain's clarity as the fog slowly started to fade away. My most effective strategy during this time was to physically get out of the house, go to the gym, go see a friend, go do some errands, go do some work or study at the local Starbucks, because staying in the house all day usually meant I would
Jesus
relapse
Christ.
again. The next 48 hours, also known as days
that was
3
grotesque.
and 4. The next 2 days, days 3 and 4, came with some pretty noticeable benefits. The most apparent was a significant boost to my levels of self-esteem. I usually felt bad about what I had done the first 2 days after a relapse. I would have thoughts like, I'm such a...
Yeah, okay, this is bad. There shouldn't be anything in your life like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you it's a bodily function. You're creating the shame. Like, your self-esteem would just be better all the time if you didn't have shame about something that you don't really have a need to feel shame about. And the reason why people think that they should feel shame is because they believe that God is watching them in some way, that it's some betrayal of their religious beliefs, or they have some weird pseudoscientific beliefs that maybe they follow some weird Andrew Tate type guy. I don't know. Was Andrew Tate that kind of guy? Was he a NoFap guy? You know, I think that's kind of different from being like a no porn person. I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to be. To me, that's like being a no alcohol person. But being a no masturbation person is kind of like, I'm just like never gonna blow my nose, ever. If I'm stuffy, that's just too bad. I'm not gonna indulge in this habit. God wanted that snot to stay in our nose for a reason. I don't know. Like, it's weird.
Such a failure. Why am I so weak? I'm pathetic.
Terrible.
But this wasn't a good thing, because whenever I was outside at a social outing, my levels of confidence were pretty much non-existent because of these thoughts. It was so bad that I would come up with excuses to skip out on these events because of all the guilt and shame. But when I reached days 3 and 4...
This is devastatingly familiar. Like, this is absolutely... It gives me flashbacks to the most miserable moments in my life. What's really sad about this to me is I have a hard time articulating how miserable it is mentally to be in that prison of belief, to use that term. I forget the author of Going Clear, but that's the subtitle of that book is Scientology and the Prison of Belief. And that's what it is. I mean, ironically, this calendar looks a lot like prison bars to me, or a toothbrush, I guess, or a piano. But I think unconsciously, in a Freudian way, this is his own prison. It's like, I have a hard time explaining to people who are like PMO and can't imagine not experiencing that level of stress that they're feeling while they're physically and mentally out, which is truly the worst time in life ever. I think like it was really way more miserable than recovering from major surgery is being physically and mentally out, and like knowing that you are consciously living a lie, and knowing that in the future people are going to be very disappointed and mad at you and shun you. Is a terrible state of being. And it's and then you're also scared because you are going to lose that stuff and kind of have to start from scratch in some ways. And it's like, what you don't realize is like, yes, you do have that. You have to give up that stuff, but you don't understand the mental prison that you're in. And that is just such a weight off your mind. I think that the only way that I'm able to do a channel like this now is because I do have more self-confidence on a regular basis since leaving the witnesses. And I think it's because there's just a lot of things that I felt shame about that I didn't need to. And this kid making this video basically said the exact reasons why it's worth not believing in the things that he believes in, because there's no reason to go about your life canceling social plans because you feel shame because 2 days ago you masturbated. Saying that out loud now, it feels really absurd. Like that, there's just no reason for anybody to feel like that. But they've been given a reason, either by religion or just somebody who's lying to them on purpose or on accident, or just some internalized discomfort with their own body or sexuality. Maybe they're closeted, and so their sexual thoughts are directed towards the same sex or something, and so it's even more shameful because of that, because of religious reasons. You know, there's all sorts of reasons to hate yourself for no reason, and this is just another ideology that perpetuates that. And this is very jw.org-esque, and that it's using this cutesy modern animation style, like those whiteboard videos that jw.org does, to communicate something that would be way more at home in the 19th century.
4, I found that those thoughts became much less common, and this meant that I was a lot more confident in myself. I found myself doing much better during social interactions. I found myself being able to hold longer eye contact. I was more lively. I had more fun, and it seemed like others enjoyed my company more than usual. Days 5 and 6. It's around this point where my energy...
Right, and my point is that you just feel like that all the time when you leave a cult, because the only things that were holding you back were the internalized shame for behavior that's not bad. Like, I'm not saying that a person should never feel shame. Obviously, if you do something wrong, you should feel ashamed. And shameless people generally become evil people because they use their shamelessness because they truly don't care how their actions affect other people. But, you know, you masturbating doesn't affect anybody. It just doesn't. Unless you believe that there is a deity judging you, or that you're somehow psychologically damaging yourself because you believe in some dumb red pill pseudoscience bullshit. So let go of that stuff and, you know, save your shame for when you genuinely fuck up in life.
Energy levels started to become noticeably higher. It became much easier to jump out of bed and get the day started. I found myself being able to accomplish most of the tasks I had set out to do for the day before the day was over. When I was off the wagon, when I was in periods of relapse, I usually struggled with sticking to all the other good habits that I knew I should have been sticking to, like meditation, reading, and going to the gym. But upon reaching days 5 and 6, I actually wanted to educate myself. I actually wanted to lift heavy things. I actually wanted to improve my mental strength. I actually wanted to get things done. My self-esteem...
Okay, so here's a way I can make this about me. My favorite pastime. Imagine, what's this kid's name? Phil? Thinky Phil? Improvement Phil. Here's a way for Phil to improve, in my opinion, is that when you have a healthy relationship with your own sexuality, you will just kind of casually go about your life and realize that it's been a couple days since you've masturbated because it's not that big of a deal to you, maybe. Or you gotta jerk it every day and it's not a big deal because you just understand that to be a healthy function of your body. That's no big deal. And because of that, every day you are able to live your life with this level of like zeal to accomplish things and work out and learn. And like that's... I was not a very productive person as a Jehovah's Witness. Like, I was not industrious. I was not productive. I was a procrastinator. and never finished anything. And like since leaving the Witnesses, I've really been able to create a lot of stuff. I used to really have a problem with finishing projects, and now it's really something I've been able to overcome and still, find time to do things that are important in life. And I think the only reason why I'm able to do that is because I don't have that just like anchor weighing me down. Like what this dude is saying is absolutely correct, that like it's so shameful that it really does take a few days to get over how mad you are at yourself, which is totally absurd.
Continued to grow at this point as I noticed myself having even less negative thoughts throughout the day, and as I started feeling proud of all the things that I was able to accomplish every day. Day 7. Now, this is a very special day with very, very noticeable benefits. A Chinese study actually found that for some reason, on day 7, from abstaining from any form of ejaculation, our testosterone levels spiked to 145% of their baseline levels. And boy, oh boy, this extra 45% is definitely noticeable. Most people would expect one to feel more hot-headed and aggressive with all that extra testosterone, but honestly, it didn't feel like that. The best way to describe day 7 for me is, in charge, like the kingpin of a mob. Like,
what the fuck are you talking about? This is demented. Why are you checking your testosterone levels all the time and measuring your level of ejaculation? And it's just weird. It's just weird. Just become a complete person, okay? Watch Severance. It'll teach you some things. You gotta unify the parts of your life that you're ashamed of and uncomfortable with the part of yourself that you are comfortable with. You gotta make peace with that shadow self. And I don't think that it's all that aspirational to feel like the kingpin of a mob. Like I don't want to be around a person like that in public. Somebody who feels like they're the kingpin of a mob.
Everything is going to go your way, and that the world is your oyster. I found myself taking more initiative, going out of my way to make plans with others, setting up parties, asking people to come eat with me, and resparking conversations with childhood friends that I haven't spoken to in a while. There was a strong sense of calm.
You were lonely.
My entire being. Whenever I got to around day 7 and day 8, one of my journal entries recalls a day where I had to give a 20-minute presentation in front of class all by myself. This was something that usually would have made me very nervous, but that day, I felt nothing. I wasn't scared whatsoever. It was just another walk in the park. Days 7 and 8 were also where I started taking more initiative with my dating life. Another journal entry recalls an experience where I was working out at the gym and I spotted a cute girl and I literally could not stop myself from going up to her and chatting her up. It felt...
I don't know. Is that good? I was so horny that I literally could not stop myself from going up to her and asking her out. Is that good? Is that good for you? Is that good for society generally? I don't know. He was so full of jizz that he overcame his fear of public speaking. I know, like, what are we saying? This is like the Seinfeld episode where George abstains from sex and becomes a genius. Like, it's not really true. It just isn't. I think you just generally feel better if you feel healthy all the time. If you just try and be healthy. And it's generally when you're unhealthy that you feel things like days of crippling shame for, spanking it.
Felt wrong to not talk to her. Like I said, it felt like the world is your oyster. Like everything was going to go your way. So all the self-doubt that would have usually filled my head.
Okay, so this guy's just having like a Freudian meltdown and seeing vaginas everywhere. The world felt like his oyster because, well, we know why.
They were non-existent. One very important thing to note is that the urges on day 7 and 8 are...
Literally looks like the brainwaves from Severance. I mean, this is what we're seeing. This is reminding me, though, that I have to take a pee really bad right now. This image. But, oh my god, wait. Now I'm thinking about this. It's not that he has to pee. This is him suppressing, like, his urge to squirt one out. No, never used that euphemism before, and I don't think I should ever again.
Are incredibly erratic. They came in and...
Is he aware that these are shaped like dicks? Like, is he aware of the Freudian shapes that have taken over his psyche constantly?
Tense waves throughout the day. I always had to get out of the house and spend the...
Always had to be out of the house.
In order to make sure I could make it past those 2 days. And unfortunately, after days...
That's not good. That's not good. I mean, it's good to want to be out of the house because you want to be out of the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's good to be out of the house because you have a desire to walk outside and fulfill yourself and see your friends and shit. But it's a good thing to be able to have peace wherever you are. And if you feel so crippled by shame and fear in your own home that you have to be out of the house to be able to just experience joy, that's a little bit of a problem, no matter what. Like, if you were agoraphobic, but had no problem with masturbating, I'd say the same thing.
Day 7 and 8, most of these benefits would seemingly disappear overnight. But think of it as a teaser for what truly awaits you if you continue on this journey. 2 weeks in. About 2 weeks in, I started to develop what I like to call social balls of steel. I became extremely confident when it came to social interactions. I found myself holding prolonged eye contact with people. I also found myself saying whatever came to mind. I became more blunt and honest with those around me, not being scared to state how I truly felt about things or how I truly felt about someone. And this actually led to deeper conversations.
Oh, this is awful. This is awful. What he is describing is an arrogant asshole. He's kind of describing a creep, TBH. Like, none of these things are bad in isolation, but I think it is bad to define yourself by these things, because what he's articulating here is the alpha male lifestyle, where you are supremely confident and take no shit and talk down to other people because they are below you. You are the alpha and they are not, and this is not good. Don't be like this. Be a little bit more malleable with the universe, maybe.
With those around me, not being scared to state how I truly felt about things or how I truly felt about someone. And this actually led to deeper conversations, as people were more willing to share their true feelings and whatever was going on in their mind with me. To top that off, the urge to talk to people in general would increase drastically. I found myself sparking random conversations with almost every single person that was in my vicinity, in the elevator, on the bus, on the train.
That sounds insane. Can I be real with you? No, I should have said this right up top, but no offense to Phil. I mean this only with the utmost respect, but this is absolutely demented. I mean, look how you drew your hand in your pocket, jerking yourself off, and you just did this self-consciously. This is really, really crazy. I mean, look at the train that you drew. Now, you might argue, Jake, you're the one who's seeing all this stuff. That's not... We don't need to talk about that. This guy has become a person who nobody likes. Nobody likes the person who literally makes conversation with absolutely everybody, because it's just kind of not cool. It's just kind of not cool, because some people just clearly aren't in the mood to have a conversation, and you're not going to make their day by forcing them into one. You're just going to really annoy them and make them feel more self-conscious. And then they'll be ashamed because you didn't know that you were forcing a fellow NoFapper into conversation, and he felt so ashamed that he goes home and ruins his life for a full week because he jerked it once.
It didn't matter. If they were next to me for an extended period of time, I was going to start some sort of conversation with them. Now, before I tell you about the amazing benefits I saw around the 1 month mark, I do want to quickly tell you about a free training that I'll be hosting next week, where I'll be sharing with you exactly how I was able to overcome my bad addictions.
Excuse me. This implies the existence of unfree trainings. And I have to question, training what? What are you training exactly? I mean, realistically, it's just a matter of willpower. And there's no need to pay for any of this. Like, alcoholic recovery programs are free, generally speaking. Like group therapy programs, you should never have to pay for that kind of thing.
Also, how
don't pay this guy money to tell you how to not masturbate. I beg you, please.
Changing habits that actually stuck around. All you have to do is sign up for my mailing list to receive updates about this training using the link down below. And don't worry if you're watching this video at a later time, because I plan on hosting this training a couple of times every single year. So if you sign up late, you'll get notified in a couple of months about the next.
That's fucking insane. Oh, good. I'm ready to go to my biannual No Jerking It convention training retreat. What does your life become if this is what you're doing? Take a step back. Look in the mirror. I don't know. I'm being really condemnatory for no reason.
Is there a therapist telling people not to do something?
This guy is definitely not a therapist. He's just some random YouTuber who's just like, here's my NoFap journey. Here's why I'm not jerking it. And this is what I do. And now he's like selling courses. I guess I don't know that for sure. But it kind of seems like he's selling courses.
On how not to masturbate.
On how not to masturbate. Can I tell you something? Heaven's Gate had some ideas on how you really get it done. They had some ideas on how you really not masturbate. Marshall Applewhite did this first and better. I mean, I don't know. He did exactly what he wanted to do, it seems. But I've been reading a lot about Marshall Applewhite because what a lot of people don't know is that he was fired from like a nice university job he had because allegedly he made some kind of advances at another man, and this is when homosexuality was criminal. It was criminalized, and so he was fired and was kind of made to be a pariah. And he was already religious, so he really hated that part of himself and really hated masturbating, probably because, the thing that arouses him sexually is same-sex sex stuff. And so, that's a really important part of who that guy is. That hatred of his own sexuality is just fundamentally important to why Marshall Applewhite turned out the way he did. I'm not saying that all these NoFap people are the same as Heaven's Gate people necessarily, but it's the root of a lot of injurious things. If I may falsely quote the New World Translation Bible, it's not good for your brain. History tells us that people like this go on to start death cults more often than they start a successful small business.
The next time I host a training,
which is what I'm assuming this guy wants to do.
1 month mark.
I mean, not this guy, but you, the sucker watching this, thinking you should sign up for a no spanking it course.
Oh man, my favorite thing about making it to the 1 month mark is the crystal clear mental clarity. You don't know what being smooth is like until you reach 1 month. The wit and mental.
There's no fucking way that's true. I mean, there's no way that's true because you're thinking about it still. You're just thinking about it. And I know that this guy's thinking about it because it's his full-time job. This is how he makes money. I mean, he's making some serious cheddar off of these multi-million view videos on how he doesn't jerk off. But he's a cartoon, so I guess you just kind of got to trust him on this. There's no real way to check and make sure that he's practicing what he preaches. Marshall Applewhite had a solution to that, which is to chop off his own tallywhacker. I don't know.
Acrobatics that I started being able to pull off during conversations would always come in at around.
But how can I not? His hands are immaculate. I'm so bad at drawing hands. This is so good. Maybe it's a different person who animates his videos, but whoever his animator is spectacular.
Around this point in my journey, I've had a lot of students comment on my ability
just showing off with
his
ballerina
without
poses.
Ever having to pause a single time to think about what to say next. That's what I mean by mental acrobatics.
Can I tell you something? It makes me extra sad when people use their artistic talents for evil, to perpetuate cult propaganda, because that's true of Jehovah's Witnesses, certainly, and Scientology. Scientology famously really actively tries to appeal to artsy, creative types because they are creative, independent thinkers and are more open to unique ideas about self-improvement and how to improve the world. And they weaponize that because they are hard workers and they are creative, and they use those people to perpetuate the cult. I mean, Scientology is probably only still relevant because of Tom Cruise and the few celebrities who are still openly a part of it. And Jehovah's Witnesses do that same thing. Their video productions are immaculate. Their animations are amazing. They're very high quality. They've always had high quality art. And it's because they do appeal to these, more often than not, sexually repressed young men. They rope them in usually when they're still a teenager, 19. They recently just lowered the age to 18. They rope them in at an early age. You're more likely to get accepted to Bethel the younger you are. And then they use your youth and your hard work and your talents to perpetuate their harmful ideology, which is the thing that's making you miserable. It's really sick And so it makes me sad because you can tell whoever this animator is, they're either a real sellout who will animate actual propaganda, or it's this video maker himself. And I gotta tell you, his hands are really... I think after this, I might sit down and try and draw some hands.
Acrobatics. I found myself having an instant, clever response to just about anything that people threw my way. I found myself being able to flirt with anyone without any hesitation.
No. I get in those moods where I feel like I'm having a clever response to everything. Nobody else thinks I'm being awesome. Nope. It's always cringe. This is a hard-learned lesson. I'm trying to impart some truths onto our dear friend Phil.
I found myself being able to have deep conversations with complete strangers in the matter of minutes. I was smooth as butter. But that's not all. It's around the 1 month mark where the benefits that I got a taste of
wild, wacky stuff.
My confidence was sky high. I started to believe I could do anything if I put my mind to it. I felt like I was in control of my life and the world around me. My productivity levels also skyrocketed. I was able to not...
And then, like, how does this end inevitably? Well, then you relapse, but instead of drinking alcohol, which is a chemical substance that can cause you to fuck up your entire life by making dangerous decisions. You could literally die, not just of an overdose, but just like in a car accident, drunk driving. You know, that kind of relapse can kill you. Whereas a relapse into watching porn and or just jerking it literally doesn't harm anybody. Doesn't harm anybody but your own psyche, if for some reason you have allowed it to. In my opinion, I'm not a professional anything. Christina chimed in, unprompted, and said sometimes porn is good for a marriage too, so make of that what you will. Another little peek behind the curtain here.
To knock off all the tasks I knew I had to complete before noon. Essays, reading assignments, and the like were all done way before they were actually due. And unlike after day 7, this time the benefits actually stuck around. 2 months to 3 months. The majority of the most noticeable benefits plateaued at around the 1 month mark. To be honest, I don't think...
Sign up for my special course and you too can experience up to 3 months of almost entirely great days where best case scenario you experience 0 orgasms.
I don't think I ever got any more productive or confident past that point. But at around the 2 to 3 month mark, I always started doing a lot better with the ladies without even having to try. I remember going to a house party and I somehow ended up with a girl who was an entire head taller than me. She was so much taller that she had to bend down to kiss me. I felt like a kid.
Don't say this. Don't say this in your video. I mean, I am happy for that guy. Because that is a big deal when a girl that's taller than you is into you. So I am actually proud of our friend Phil. But he's going about this in a creepy way. And he's got to be careful.
Being kissed goodbye on my first day of school. And this was definitely weird because girls who are even just a bit taller than me usually never bothered to look my way. But 2 to 3 months in, there I was. There was also another instance where I was invited to a karaoke event with like 10 to 15 other people. And a chick from across the room, the most attractive girl in that entire room, all the other guys were trying to chat up. She had her friend come up to me and tell me that she wanted to get my number. These instances might have been caused by the fact that they saw me cracking jokes with everyone around me and the fact that I was having a lot of fun. I don't really know because in all of these instances... And
Sam, I mean, is she as pretty as the anime drawing of her? And is he as quite literally flawless as he draws himself?
The many others I haven't mentioned, I didn't really have to put in much effort.
Wow, he's a chick magnet now.
Attracted to me. It was almost...
Wait, why is this one there on the one on the left?
Like magic. The most success with girls I've ever had in my life.
That ain't how magnets work.
The 2 to 3 month mark. And to be completely
honest, I learned that
honest,
from the Insane Clown Posse.
I saw past this point for 2 main reasons. The first is that I didn't really see any more benefits. The confidence.
Let me be clear. The Insane Clown Posse prompted me with the question, fucking magnets, how do they work? And that led me on a great journey. And I do want to clarify that for the record. This is me clarifying the record right now.
Productivity, the mental acrobatics, the urge to socialize, and the general boost in levels of happiness all pretty much plateaued at this point. But don't take this the wrong way. This was more than enough. Life was good.
How about utilize your talents your very visible, obvious talents as a video creator guy, and possibly also an animator, and just make cool shit that has nothing to do with your jizz. How about that?
Actually, no. Life was amazing whenever
I'm
I got
allowed to
this far.
say
the
that.
The second reason is that I've only ever managed to venture past 3 months without any form of ejaculation once in my entire life, because I always managed to get a girlfriend before the 3-month mark was over. So I can't really tell you too much about the benefits of no nut after that. Plus, the one time I went past 3 months, it honestly just felt the same for me. But I will say one thing. If I relapsed at any point in time throughout this entire journey, I would lose practically all of the benefits overnight and have to start from day one all over again. And by relapse, I mean watching porn, masturbating.
Oh my God. Wait, as a tall girl, you're shocked to hear that? I feel like you might be being sarcastic. You might be being sarcastic. I don't like, just on the record, I don't want to have this kind of thing. I mean, now it is on my channel. Unfortunately, now it is here. Now it's here on the channel. But this is not the kind of thing that I would put on my channel as anything other than a joke. Like, here's a little cartoon version of me moaning with the word orgasm in my video I'm making about how I'm trying not to orgasm as much. Like, what are you talking about?
And ejaculating like that. Wet dreams and sex did not reset the benefits for me. It took me more than 3 years of trial and error to finally take this addiction. If you want to learn more about the...
So he can still have sex. Well, that seems fine. Like, listen, people can do whatever they want, but I just think that if this is actually a pretty good image of what I think is maybe an unhealthy attitude towards sexuality. Like, I don't think you should be thinking of masturbating as being in the war, being a military general, having a plan of attack, and the thing that you're attacking is your own libido. I don't think there's really no need to do that unless your doctor tells you that you need to for some real reason. But I think this is a little out of control. Like, this reminds me of the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses have these artistic renderings of the world coming after them, and how everything is likened to them being a soldier, and you have to have like a military strategy and God and war.
The exact strategy I used to
overcome war and violence.
Make sure you sign up for my email list using the link down below so you can get news
Step one to not masturbating. Sign up to this guy's email list.
Besides that, guys, I hope this video has been insightful and inspiring for some of you. If you are...
Wow. It was insightful, and it was inspiring in the fact that I have renewed inspiration to get back to making this video about this kind of thing. That's actually more upsetting than I thought it would be. Here's a question, and here's a sincere thing. Short of the fact that he uses words that Jehovah's Witnesses would not use, like chick. Like, he's using more colloquial language. You could transport this, upload, some would say, to jw.org, and nobody would think that it was that crazy. Like, this is following the doctrinal principles and strategies that I read as a kid in the Young People Ask book. It's the same thing. Like, all of his strategies are literally word for word the same thing. If I didn't have to pee as bad as that guy had to jerk off in that drawing we saw earlier, I would get into it more. But I, like Bob in the movie What About Bob, do sometimes worry that if I hold my bladder for too long, my bladder will explode. So thank you for listening, everybody. We really went on so many journeys this stream. It really felt like we accomplished some things today. Now, did we? No, nothing at all was accomplished. We watched some YouTube videos and read some articles. So that's not nothing. Nothing is nothing, and that was something. So you did something today, chat, and so did I. And so we can rest easy tonight. Everything's going fine in our life. Okay. Just try not to think too much about the fact that RFK Jr. is a Scientology guy and is in charge of a lot of stuff. All right.